This episode of the Inside Running podcast is powered by Lululemon. With 44 stores across Australia and New Zealand, you can shop the latest range either in-store or online at lululemon.com.au to find your well-being.
Now I hear you say you got the best of both ways. Won't you come and take a walk in my shoes and tell me if you take my place?
Welcome to episode number 314 of the Inside Running podcast. Thank you for joining us for another week. Might be a quicker show tonight, only really Noosa Bolt, New York Marathon, New South Wales 3K champs to cover, some doping news in there as well. But we do have a listener question, Moose on the Loose, a couple of whispers, and an interview from Ryan Mannix at the end of the show. Welcome to my co-host. He's down in Anglesea, the 214 man. How are you this week, Julian Spence?
I'm feeling pretty good, actually. It's been a beautiful day in Anglesea.
Has it? Tourists haven't been triggering you, though?
Well,
Tourist season, long weekend for Melburnians.
Yeah, don't know about it. They all flooded down Friday night. Started not saying hello Saturday morning, and that continued through until a very crowded beach this afternoon. Ran down to the beach tonight to meet Bree and Pia and nearly got killed about 4 times by expensive European cars just ripping around little local community. So that really pissed me off.
Gotta love it. My other co-host, maybe the best coach in Canberra at the moment. These are his results from the Canberra Times fun run yesterday. He got first and second in the men's half marathon, first and second in the women's half marathon, and second in the 10K. Some people think it's Dick Telford. Some people think it's Philo Saunders. Some people think it's Des Proctor, but I reckon it's Brad Croker. Moose, welcome to you this week, Croaks.
Not debatable.
Not debatable. Leaps and bounds ahead of the other three.
Thanks, Brady. Yeah, it was a good day yesterday for Mulligan's Flat Track Club.
He was pretty happy in the group chat, wasn't he, Moose?
Oh, mate, he was screenshots left, right and centre. Said, great day for Mulligan's. These are the results they had.
Did you come off your high yet, Croaks, after yesterday?
Yeah. I was, you guys are hamming this up a little bit, but no, I'm good. Yeah, it's good to see people run well that have put in the hard work.
Oh yeah,
that's what I like. That's what I like seeing.
Yeah, that's good. That's what we want to see. And I think you were out there on course, so you can kind of recap that when you get to your Sunday, but take us through your Monday first.
Yeah, all right. So Monday I didn't run. Did I run? No, I didn't run. So then Tuesday we were out at the Thoroughbred Park, the horse track. It was pretty busy out there actually because I know Dick Telford's squad, they're normally out there Thursday, but they were out here on Tuesday as well because the AIS track was closed. Session for me was 3 sets of 3 minute, 2 minute, 1 minute. Have 1 minute between the reps, and then after the 1 minute rep, I have 90 seconds, and it was sort of just a really slow shuffle between reps. So the 3 minute reps went 3:24, 3:23, 3:22 pace, and then the 2 minute reps 3:16, 3:16, 3:11, and the 1 minute reps 3:02, 3:03, 2:54. So this was like the first session I reckon since coming back where I was looking down at my watch and I was actually surprised how quick the paces were for sort of the effort that I was putting in. So I did that with Jack, who he did a park run on the weekend in like 16:30. So so I was pretty happy with that session. So that was Tuesday afternoon. Wednesday got out in the afternoon for about an hour at Mulligan's 4:25s. Thursday I didn't run, and then Friday was so Thursday I didn't run. Friday's session, there weren't actually many doing a session at all because of the races. I had a few people doing park run on Saturday, and then I had a lot of people doing the fun run on the Sunday. So I was pretty much solo for this session. I did 4 by 6 minutes off a 1 minute jog. Paces were 325, 325, 324, 319. Averaged 329s for that sort of 7.75K. And then Saturday I did my long run because I didn't want to do my long run after the after sort of being out at the fun run on the Sunday. So I did 90 minutes on Saturday morning. I listened to it was Sinead and Ellie actually. So I listened to that for like the first 75 minutes, and then started listening to the Dave McNeil episode that you did, Brady, after that. So both were really good. Enjoying your...
Going from one end of the spectrum from the other there, Croaks. There was a bit of giggling in the first one, then there was a bit of serious chat in the second one.
Yeah. So no, it was good contrast. So no, you've been doing a good job with those interviews, Brady.
Oh, you've been listening to them, Croaks?
Yeah, yep. So I've listened to both of them.
You warming yourself up for your turn?
Yeah, I don't speak as well as those two.
Nah, you'll be right.
I
need a dad on, someone who's got some dad stuff.
Yeah. I've certainly got some mental health stuff as well, which I've never really shared before, so that'll probably come out. So that was 90 minutes, 4:15s. Actually felt pretty good on this run. And then on Sunday or yesterday, I started my run pretty much the same time as the half marathon. And then basically so I could run over to sort of the 8-9K mark and watch them. So I did 30 minutes at 4:18s. And then, basically just watched the half and then watched the 10K, and that was my week. So, 71.8K for the week. So fitness is okay, I guess, for what I'm doing. It's body's good. There's no niggles. Doesn't seem to be any issues with the heart.
You're getting fit off a week like that. You're ticking a lot of boxes. That threshold workout was good.
Fit.
Hey?
The week's already proven.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
Fit.
Yeah, it's more like the sessions are definitely becoming, they're not where I was in June, but compared to where I was like 4 weeks ago, like I remember in Noosa I did, I think 6 by 3 minutes, and I didn't run under 3:30s for any of them. And like I'm running a fair bit faster now admittedly it was a bit warmer up there, but like I'm doing, 6 minute reps, 5 to 10 seconds a K faster than that off the same recovery. So it's all going well.
Good work.
I reckon.
Moose, what have you been doing?
I had an okay week. I'd say okay week. Wasn't great, wasn't terrible. Let me just pull it up for you. But off the top of my head, I ran twice on Monday, equaling about 16K because that was one of my goals, just slowly increase mileage. And I have been doing 2 6K runs in the past on a Monday, but I decided to just increase it a little bit. So I went 8K in the morning and 8.5K in the 8.5 and 8, so just real cruisy stuff. And then next day, this was a crazy run actually. I looked at it afterwards and I was like, geez, felt like I climbed a lot in that run, and I've climbed a heap. So I've climbed 300 meters in 12K basically, and the first couple of K were dead flat. So really in 9K basically I've climbed 300 meters, and I just did all these like single tracks around my home, and then I also ran on the golf course for a while, and the golf course is pretty hilly, and I didn't even plan this, it just kind of happened that's what I did. But anyway, slow going, but I don't think it's bad for you to do that. Work a few different muscles, slow the pace down. Going uphill at 6 minutes a K or whatever is pretty low impact, certainly using muscles, but the impact's a lot less. Heart rate did get high for an easy day, which wasn't too bad. It wasn't crazy, but probably pick a different route next time. I went in, did a workout the next morning. This was unplanned. Like I didn't have a plan for the day, which gave me a bit of a kick up the arse to do it, because I got there, I met Ali, she was doing a workout, and I was just not feeling good, and it was a bit of a cop out, but I'm like, I'll jump in your rep. She did 3 by 7 minutes, I think it was. So I said, I'll jump in your rep to start with and see how I feel. Maybe I'll do some faster stuff as well. But when the sort of 7 minutes ended, I just kept running. So I did this 30-minute tempo. That was to heart rate. I did a bit on the track, so the pace isn't going to be that accurate. At the end of every 7 minutes, I went off and did this loop around Deakin that sort of goes up a small hill. So that got my heart rate up a bit. This is actually around, this would be called around marathon effort, I think, 160 beats a minute, my heart rate. And then I increased the length of the hills. So I did 20-second hills, which was different, or it was 22-second, most of them. So I just went further up the ramp that I've been doing them on, and this is actually pretty difficult. So the difference from 10 seconds to 20 seconds is huge in these hill reps. You just get that little bit more lactic, and you get that little bit more fatigued. Your heart rate goes up higher. It's pretty difficult. And so I was kind of on my knees afterwards, whereas for the 10-second reps, I just turn around and jog down straight away. So it's good to feel
on your knees.
Well, hands on knees. Hands on knees, okay. Sorry.
That's a bit different than on your knees.
Yeah. On my knees, having a real crack.
Like Dixon after he won New York.
Yeah. Yes. That was a great picture.
That was in your old shop, Moose. The most iconic on your knees photo getting around, that one.
Yeah. It's actually on my wall still, but it's a smaller one. I won't get into it.
Well, that's what you do, Moose. But when you increase these from 20 to 30, that's when you're actually on your knees at the end.
20 to 30 at the same intensity is buckling me.
Yeah, you're
proper
cooked.
Buckling me.
Zach, can we get a photo of Moose's head on that picture, please, for social media during the week? That would be
Dixon
great.
has that copyrighted. No chance that's getting past Dixon. How about this picture, Croaks, that I posted?
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
You like that?
Jeez, how good's that kit? It's so nice of you to share the stuff after I share it. It just goes to another 6,000 people.
All I see is the shoes. I wouldn't know what clothes you're wearing, Brady.
I just finished my strides. That's the thing with Lululemon. They don't need to do big branding because their kit is so beautiful, Moose. Those new splitties, that new singlet, wait till you see me at a fun run over spring.
Yeah, I'm just wondering how the shoot went. Did Carley direct
That's Carley, yeah. Yeah, Carley.
Did she say, just give a flirty little look back to the camera?
I think this was a video, wasn't it?
This was a video.
It's a screenshot of a video.
Oh, right. Okay.
What do you think about the tucked in look?
Yeah, just showing off the booty.
I always tuck my singlet into my shorts. Every single day of the week. I don't know. I like it. You look through my whole Instagram and all my photos would be, not all of them, but majority of them I'd be tucked in.
It's like you're a bit more fast and loose.
Yeah. No, I like it tucked in for races and workouts. But
you actually need to, otherwise it hangs off.
Hey,
you've got no torso. You're a paperclip.
Yeah, just something about that. Pull the shorts a bit higher and just get a bit of a tuck going.
Anyway, did a double.
I'll flick you a pair of socks, Moose, for promo on that for me.
You did what?
I'll flick you a pair of socks for sharing it with your 6,000 followers.
That slab you owe me.
Yeah, I will.
I'm going to call that up soon because I'm getting thirsty. Just a little double. Stupidly got bored. Ran down a hill, which meant I had to run up a hill. Next morning, 10K. I was supposed to double this day, but didn't get a chance. We were too busy. So I only got 10 in. And, next day ran on the track. After that was Friday. This was the first crack at doing Wednesday to Friday, as you've recommended, Brady, and I did a faster workout. So I did 4 by 1200, 600, 300, and I took a minute between all, except for the last set. I had to take 90 seconds just before the last set went, just to be able to get through it. The aim was 1200s at about 78s, 600s were going to be around 70, 72. And that's the pace I would go through at. I don't know what that equals, but that's just what the effort was.
No one cares about 600 metre splits, do they?
I know. Tell me about it.
I'll
give you my 400 split. It can't be that far off.
I appreciate that when I check Strava. When I check Strava, Moose, I love that you gave us a split through 400 because that's all I cared about.
So Moose, and what pace for the 300s?
Oh, well, that was just supposed to be fast, like stride pace. So for me, I didn't think I'd be able to go under 50 seconds. And a lot of the time, I didn't really know where the actual marker was because I was starting some of them like at the 100-meter mark. I don't know where the markers are. I'm not that in tune with the track that I know where the actual spots are on the corners. It's pretty embarrassing, really.
So in terms of pace moves, so 78s is what, 315s?
Yeah,
70s is 255s, and 50s is what? It's like so in terms of the 78s and the 70s, is that like what 10k and 5k effort?
I'd say the 78s is more around threshold.
Yeah.
That's what I was kind of keeping an eye on with my heart rate. I didn't really want my heart rate to go above threshold for the 1200s. So I was keeping track of it. And then on the 1200s, it was about 5k effort. However...
600s, you mean?
Yeah, sorry, the 600s, yeah. But it was probably a bit harder by the end. The 600s were difficult. And then 300s, that was probably going to be about 3k effort. Not pace, effort. It's really like 3k effort is pretty hard when you consider 3k 7.5 laps. But then you think the pace I was running, like that pace was certainly not 3k pace. So I just get in this thing, 300. I'm like, okay, it's supposed to feel pretty hard, pretty much sprinting for me, 300. And it was the 300s were the easiest bit of the workout.
How'd you find though going from, because like I'm sure a 50-second 300 still like puts a bit of lactic in your legs, and then you only got a minute recovery, and then admittedly you are going back to 78-second laps, but I'd imagine that first lap or first 600, like your legs are a little bit sort of wobbly, like trying to run the junk out.
Well, the way the workout went, the first 1200 felt like I was flat out running 78s, and then the 600, I haven't run anything that fast in ages. It was feeling horrible. The 300, I couldn't, like I've never had to work that hard mechanically to get those splits. And I just thought, this is fucked. This is not a place for me anymore. And then it started to feel a bit better, but then the lactic started building. And those 600s were easily the hardest. And the last 200 meters were like my legs just saying no. They just started to stop going. And then I got to the 300s, and it was short enough I could get through, but mechanically that was me all out running 50-second 300, which is what, 250 pace or something. It's not too impressive. But
what
the rest,
shoes you wearing, Moose, on the track?
Oh, I had a Vaporfly 3s on.
Yeah, that'd be good on the track, wouldn't it?
They're all right.
Bouncy.
Yeah, they're fine. I'd probably go something snappier. All my shoes are in boxes now. I just sort of have my set race shoes. I could probably get them out of there. But the last rep, I was pretty cooked after that last 300, and I needed 90 seconds instead of a minute to get through it. And mentally, this is not a good, easy workout for me. So I was trying to find ways to shorten it. Like I got through 2 reps, and I'm like, oh, you know what? 3 sets is probably a pretty good amount for this. Like that's going to be about 6K at this pace. And then I thought, oh, let's just make the last rep a K, 400, 200. And they're the sort of things that I do when I'm not enjoying myself, when things get difficult. And in the end, I just gave myself 30 seconds extra rest, which really wasn't a big deal. So I felt pretty good to finish it as intended.
Big track workout.
Yeah, like did you think maybe Moose, like it would have been better to have like 90 seconds between like all of the sets where like mechanically, because I reckon there's a big difference between a minute and 90 seconds, like just to be able to clear a bit more lactic, and I feel like then you can maybe run mechanically a bit better because as you said, like you're probably not getting to get quite as lactic by having a little bit more recovery between the sets. Yeah,
I would have taken more rest had I known it would feel like that. But on paper, to me, it didn't seem that bad. Like 600 meters, running 70-second lap, like that doesn't seem difficult at all, but it was. So
especially if you haven't done it for ages.
yeah.
5K pacing workouts is a lot different than race day as well. Like if you're a listener out there and you're trying to hit the pace and you're wondering why it feels so hard of a pace that you expected to hold for 5K in a race, don't be. I find it challenging to hit 5K pacing workouts.
And there's a big difference between 400 and 600 at that intensity.
Well, effort
especially
level,
if you only have 1 minute recoveries.
Well, effort level, it nearly feels like it's 3K, I always find. Like 10K pace in training feels more like it's, quicker.
There's also people that train on the track often and run this kind of tempo like regularly. And then there's someone who's done marathon training and doesn't touch this type of work. And he's even on the track has been doing threshold stuff. So you can get conditioned for this. And at the moment, like nowhere near the conditioning, even just the range, like the mechanical range to get to those paces, I just don't do. So and just like the diaphragm opening, because I'm puffing so much, because I'm sucking in so much air, even that isn't used to it. So there's a lot of things that this is really good for me, even though I don't enjoy it, and I'll probably shy away from it in the future, but it is good for me. And I reckon it'd be way better with a group too. It would make it so much easier.
Group track workouts. Share like a rep each.
Yeah, just sit on the back, get it done.
Kick home the last rep, just put the burners on.
Just rotate through the group. It would be interesting to see how much of a difference a group made to that workout. Whether it would be easier feel or whether we would have run faster paces at the same feel. I don't know. I did a little jog that night around the store. So I got a new shoe, the Nimbus 26, comes out soon enough. Pretty happy with how they've updated that shoe. It comes out soon, I think. I've got to double check that. But a little bit poppier, a little bit snappier. Not quite a soft, spongy. Well, some people called it mushy, the 25. I didn't particularly like the upper, but I liked the feel of the midsole. I felt that was really soft, whereas this one, to me, is a little bit more long runner rather than just recovery runs, which I found the Nimbus was good for.
I found the Nimbus 25 very durable as well. The outsole was exceptional.
Haven't changed too much on the outer sole, which is good. Yeah, not a lot of change there. Ran in Aries Saturday morning. There's a little bit of a group down there. Didn't get invited to this. Didn't get invited properly. My wife got invited to this run, and then Jordan, one of the other guys, sent me a message like half an hour before, said, "Oh, are you coming this morning?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm going down there, fired up, getting left out of the group runs, getting not invited, perhaps on purpose." So I rocked up with a chip on my shoulder. Made it uncomfortable, made it a bit unpleasant for a couple of people there.
Just a misunderstanding, or people trying to cut you off?
I'm sure it was not a misunderstanding, so that's why I went a bit harder.
He's not the big dog he thought he was anymore.
Times are changing down the Surf Coast, Crux.
Yeah, just rude, I reckon.
Kieran's back.
What do you think? I'm not going to find out? You invite my wife down, not me. Trabuco Max 3 that night. It's like a trail shoe. It's like a big shoe from Asics, big thick one. I didn't particularly like it. Found it a bit clunky. It will be good for some people who love the big cruisers. Not me though. I'm in the minimal brigade now. And we had a real good long run. So I went 2 hours 15 just to progress the last few weeks. It was, how much climbing? Let me have a look. It was a decent one. We went over the hills. 5:25, so it wasn't that good. I take that back, it wasn't that good. And we started slow, like 5:14, 5:05, and then we got going a little bit. In the end, we averaged 4:16, or I did. I was the only one who went past 26k or so. And yeah, it got difficult to me at the end. I probably need to just control some of this, I reckon, if I'm going to be sustainable, because the last 15 minutes wasn't that comfy, and I felt like I had a proper long run at the end. Had that like little bit of sickness about it, just whether it was the gels I was taking, I took 3 gels, whether it was that or the fact that I smashed a chocky milk afterwards a bit too quick, just didn't feel good for maybe an hour or two, and then came back to life. So I was at 138k, getting the mileage up there. Hopefully I'm going to do a week of bigger mileage this week, and then I'm going to back it off. Then I'm going to get back to, then I'm going to plateau it and just have a bit of a down week and then build again.
So with your mileage, so just looking in the lead up to like Sydney, you were, I guess hovering around like 140 maybe, and then had like, 1 week that was a bit bigger here, like 145. What will you be looking to do for the majority of your Osaka prep?
I hope to get about 140 to 150 regularly. I think what I did this week with the doubles and stuff is definitely not out of range of safe. And then I can just add, I'll just be getting another 6 or 7k off the long run. Yeah. So I don't think it's too drastic, the changes. My body's feeling good. I'm handling the mileage fine, and I'm feeling better on the double runs now. So it's probably just not getting carried away and making decisions before I'm being forced to make decisions, like getting to that Friday that Thursday when I could have doubled again. I was like, nah, I'm going to skip that. Like, it was after dinner. I was like feeling good. I said to Bree, I'm like, yeah, I feel good. I'm going to go for a double. And then I made what I consider maybe a sensible decision to go, nah, fuck it. You're fine. You got a track workout tomorrow. Go do that instead of adding on 6Ks at 8:30 at night. So hopefully I'll make a few more of those decisions. Keeps me away from the forced rest.
Good. A lot of hills in there, isn't there? A lot of hills. With the
1946. What did you get? For your week?
This is a bad week to ask me, because I actually hit some hills on my Sunday. Let me tell you.
Well, it's a great week to ask you.
Well, there's only one hilly run out of like 13 of them, 14 of them, 12 of them. I got for the week hills. Just loading.
767.
767. Nearly hit 1,000.
How many Ks?
163.
Whoa, that's a lot more Ks than me.
Yeah, but I only had one run in a hilly location.
Wasn't it like 500 metres too?
It's like 425, mate. Get it right. Should have seen some of the hills there. You would have battled big time. I got to open an invitation for you to come up and try them.
Oh,
some of those look pretty steep.
Yeah, well, there's only 3 hills in the whole run, I reckon, but they just go for 2Ks and then it just flattens and drops, and then you hit the same hill again a couple of Ks later. Loved it.
You do one big loop, or you're doing?
I did an out and back, like a 14.5k out and back, which got me back to the car, and then you'll see that got me to 29k, and then K30 was 48 meters up, and then 31 was a bit further up the hill as well, and then I turned around, finished on a downhill. I'll get to that on a Sunday though. Let me take it a Monday first. I ran 13k at 4:39 pace in the morning, nice and easy. Love the Monday morning run, just like permission to go slow. Whatever the body feels like running at, that's what I do. In the afternoon, I did 6k with 9 by 15-second hill strides, and I did 9 because I miscounted. I thought I'd done 8, but it turns out I'd done 9. Just got like this sandy hill not far from my house. And a fun fact for you boys, you know Peter Norman, the Australian silver medalist at the Olympics.
200-metre runner?
200-metre, Mexico City. Yep, very significant.
My grandfather was very good friends with him.
Really? So his family from his first marriage live in Echuca. If you've read his book, he talks a bit about Echuca, and his son has the Strava CR up this hill, which I've had a couple of cracks at over the years and haven't been able to get it. Like, obviously, when Peter Norman's your dad, you've got a few fast twitch fibres there handed down, and it's one of those crowns I just can't get. So that's the hill I'm talking about. It doesn't go for very long, but Gary, his son, has the CR. Tuesday, you got out for some threshold work. Shocking night's sleep Monday. Well, I don't know how you guys go Monday night after recording the show, late at night, often hard to sleep, and then one of my kids decided to wake up at 2 a.m. or something, so it wasn't real good. I was tired though in the morning. I did 4 by 8 minutes, at around, I went 3:15, 3:14, 3:12, 3:12 off 2 minutes jog. Bit windy, but I was surprised how tight I was with how the pace and the heart rate kind of looked for that workout. And the good sign was the heart rate dropped. I kept flicking over. I didn't have it on during the workout. I just wanted to see it afterwards. But then during the recoveries, I just flicked it around just to see how high it was getting at the end of the reps and then how quickly it was dropping. And I think that's a good sign when you can do these workouts and it drops pretty quick in your recovery. Like it doesn't stay escalated there. So, that was good. Good to get some mileage in there when you're doing 4x8 minutes with 2 minutes as well. In the afternoon, did 7K at 4:29s. Wednesday, just 70 minutes easy before work at 4:33s. Listen to that Ali and Sinead episode, Moose. You must have recorded that on a Tuesday night maybe. So that was good to hear what they're up to. A few good things in there. Obviously, they relax when they're with you as well. So, it was a good little show. Enjoyed that. I'm sure you enjoyed recording it.
Yeah, it's funny. We have a message group, a lot of jokes in there. I was hoping to get a few more out of them, but they're not that funny, those two. So I have to make most of the jokes myself. And then
they were laughing a bit at each other. Not so much at you, but I don't know if we've ever recorded a podcast that's had as much giggling in it as that.
Yeah, they're little girls, aren't they, at heart?
There's a lot of giggling. You were giggling as well. Nothing wrong with giggling, just means you're having fun anyway. Thursday, slowed things down, Croaks. 20K at 4:07s. Went out to Rich River Golf Club and back. That was a beautiful morning, actually. Sun just rising, a bit cooler. People get out there teeing off golf pretty early, Moose. What time do they tee off at the Anglesea one next to your place?
Oh, they weren't out when I was running the other day.
Nah.
But Rich River, destination, mate.
Yeah, one of the best in Australia, isn't it?
Out there.
Yeah.
Well, not really, but it's just a great location for trips.
Yeah,
they got the accommodation out there. They got a restaurant.
They're putting houses out there. Did you know that? They're doing a subdivision in the house. No, like in the course now. There's a subdivision right next to it, but now they're going like next to like the 20th hole or something.
Golf course living.
Yeah. So keen on that if you're interested.
How much a block?
No idea. Haven't looked into that, but I'll find out for you. Leave it on my list of things to do. In the Arvo, 7K, 4:28s. Friday I did a workout. Went on the grass track, and they put the sprinklers on. So I was actually happy with this workout, but it sounds pretty, well, not shit, but just it doesn't sound anywhere near as good as I actually think it was. I was pretty happy with it, but it looks pretty basic. It was 400 on, 200 jog, 200 a bit harder. So try to change gears up a bit from the 400 meter pace I've just done, and then a 200 jog, which gives you 1K. And I did that 6 times. I went 71, 69, 69, 69, 67, 68 for the 4s, and the 2s were all in 33. And I was kind of jogging the 200 metres in 52. But yeah, I'd like to think that on a synthetic track, I could be maybe at least a second, maybe 2 seconds quicker with the same kind of effort I was putting in there. It was just good to be going around bends. It's just a bit rough, you're hitting potholes, and they leave the sprinklers on. I don't know if they put them on the night before or the morning, but you're running and you can hear you're hitting slushy bits where your feet, your socks are getting wet and stuff. So it doesn't look good on paper.
I'd hate to do that session on a grass oval.
You've got to check the ego, Croaks, when you do it. You just got to look at the splits and go, that's okay. These are quicker than they actually are.
If I had to choose though between the grass track like that where it's not perfect or doing it on the road, I'd do it on the road.
Isn't there something about training hard so you race easy though?
Oh, yeah, I know what you mean. You do definitely get strong doing reps on a grass track.
This isn't
from an enjoyment point of view, I'd be
it's very
this is
hard.
terrible.
Yeah, it's not much fun. But I have been doing all this stuff on the road previously, but I just thought I'd just jump on there once and have a bit of a go. I still think you get a different buzz from being on a track, even if it's a grass track that's different than the road. Something about hitting the bends and, I don't know. And it's it's got spray painted lines and stuff, but it's very much here's a soccer oval we're spray painting lines on, not here's a mode track that we're trying to make a track. So there's potholes and it's wet. And another thing is, so what would you boys wear for shoes if you wanted to do a grass session, not in spikes? What would be a go-to? Considering it's a bit wet as well, so
yeah, it'd be my old like streak LTs or something.
Okay. What would you go, Moose?
I couldn't do that. I couldn't.
Yeah.
No way.
I haven't quite gone down that path, but
the problem is if you wear something that has like too much shoe, that makes it even less enjoyable.
You can't do that. So that's what I'm getting at. You can't get there. But there is a shoe that we've tested over the years that I think is perfect for this. Yeah, the green one. RC1 or RC2?
Oh, RC1, sorry. It's the RC1.
That's the shoe I use.
That's what I would use.
Yeah. Which
Streak sixes as well.
Well, you want a bit of
pretty low profile.
You want something that can grip a bit though. Yeah. Not so much low profile, but you want that grip. So that's another thing. I'm doing it in a shoe that, like, I probably would never chuck that on now to do road workouts on, or road workouts in. So yeah, effort was there anyway. 7k in the afternoon at 4:31s. Got out for a 16, and then 7k double on Saturday, pretty easy. And then hit these hills about 40 minutes from home on Sunday. Was planning to go out there with Archie, but he didn't make the meet-up at 7 a.m, so I went out solo, which 32k solo is a long way, over some hills, 14k out and back, 425 metres of climbing. I liked it. I like running hills.
He's so proud of himself.
I'm so up and about. If I get out there 10 weeks in a row, I want to get out there, Moose. Give me 10 weeks of this in a row.
You realise that 32k... Croaks, this is actually a flat run for Croaks and I. 32k.
I'm just
424.
I just remember what you looked like trying to go up the hills of Bundoora, and I reckon you'd struggle up these ones.
This is I still just don't think I'm good at hills. I'm just saying 424 is a flat day. Like, we have sought out a flat course down the coast for this.
Didn't you just say 500 metres you did over 31k?
525. Yeah, you're
100 metres more than me.
Yeah, 100.
Okay, next time I'll just go up one hill an extra time. That will get me an extra 100 metres.
Well, it won't really, because the hill's 40 metres.
No, it's more than that, isn't it? It's more than that. Look at that. It goes 17, 40, 44 climbing one of the hills. There we go. I'll do it. 163k, feeling good. Just motivated. Just motivated to string weeks together.
Found a race yet, other than the marathon?
Nah, I haven't. There's that wellness run on the day after Zatopek, and I'm going to be at Zatopek, so I'm thinking about maybe doing like a 10k there.
There you go.
Down at St Kilda there.
You know what that'd be good for?
What's that?
Your social media.
Oh, yeah, it could be good, wouldn't it?
Go win that race. A few little pictures along the way. Make a montage.
28:50.
Make a montage on your Instagram. Yeah, and do like cut in a few bits like
Zach will be there, take some photos of me.
Oh, get him in your room, and have him film you when you wake up.
Nah, you know what they always do? It's always making coffee.
Oh yeah, coffee.
Yeah,
good.
It's always pushing the coffee machine button.
Bit of a flat lay, or do that one where it's like you're getting dressed and you throw like your shorts at the camera, and then the next
then they're changed.
And then you...
I don't know how they do that. Technology these days. I always get blown away when I see that. Pretty good going, those social media. It's more the YouTubers, I reckon, that do that stuff. Day in the life.
Okay.
Anyway, who are we thanking for Patreon, Croaks? Kick things off.
I got Alex Kloppers. His Strava's locked down, but it does say that he's living in Taiwan. And then I put his name into like that website that you used to use, Brady, the race ID or something. And he may have run 42.44 at the 2008 Bridge to Brisbane. So if that's you, Alex, thanks for your support.
On you, Alex. Moose, who you got?
Yep. I got Ryan Warren. So Ryan is from Mount Clear, Victoria, which is Ballarat. Ran 2:45 at the recent Melbourne Marathon. He may have also run 35:44 at Albert Park 10K, 76 minutes at last year's Geelong Half. Used to be a track cyclist. Lecturer in exercise and sport science at Fed Uni. I think he's tested Toby before, actually. Maybe done a VO2 test on Toby. Or it was testing him for those shoes. You remember when he was building up at Road to Valencia, I think it was? And he was considering testing different shoes. That was, I think that was Ryan that reached out to him about that. He's interested in the fields of biomechanics, physiology, and strength and conditioning, especially when applied to the sports of cycling and running.
Good on you, Ryan. Thanks for your support.
Thanks, Ryan.
I'm going to thank Sean Ventham from London. Best 5K of 17:03 at the Battersea Park. Is that the one? Do they always complain about that being GPS friendly?
I think Battersea Park, but yeah, it is Battersea Park. But I'm guessing some of these races are legit and official.
Yeah. No, I think it's more when people upload it to Strava for their kudos count.
Yeah. I reckon Reese used to do a lot of workouts in there, in Battersea Park.
Yeah, I think it's pretty popular, isn't it?
When he was there. Yeah. I reckon it's a real marathoning spot.
How far around is it, do you know?
London's industrial estate.
Yeah.
Is it far around? Because isn't there Regent Park in London as well?
I think you can do a couple of turns there.
Okay.
Like a couple of loops, sorry. Like you can take a turn and cut it shorter. I used to see it pop up a lot with him, Tony Payne, and Malcolm
Hicks.
Yeah, there's a bit of a group of them that used to get into it.
Yep. All right. His 10K is 36:27, which according to Croaks, but I actually coached Sean. I've got his sign-up sheet here for Run to PB Croaks, and he's around 35:06. So you're a bit off there, but good points for trying. 1:18:05 for the half marathon. What do you got? 79. Jeez, I should have helped you out here, Croaks. And 2:44 for Valencia is correct. Recently,
time trials don't count, mate.
For what?
For these times, these PBs, we know that.
No, these are his. Oh, you mean Croaks' ones? Yeah.
No, your ones.
Nah, these are on his races, mate. He filled these in himself. These are legit.
That's not. Wait, he filled them in himself?
Yeah, this is the sign-up form to get coached. He's filled it in.
Oh, yeah. You double-check that?
I'm not going to go through everyone's times and check them.
Hey, I'm going to go fill a sign-up form.
Most of the time they got races listed next to him. He got a puppy recently. He signed up to do Barcelona Marathon next year. I think he works at Shawbrook Bank as a senior manager of corporate development. There we go, boys. That's our title for the week, that one.
Yeah.
So, and he's a great fella. So thanks, Sean, Ryan and Alex, for your support of the Inside Running podcast. If you enjoy what we do on this show, like the content, you can support us on patreon.com/Inside Running podcast. Heaps of bonus content recently. Obviously, the Sinead and Ali episode. Before that, we did one with Christian and Toby. We'll be catching up with those two boys soon. Croaks, you're doing one this week.
Yep, Thursday.
The Road to Berlin boys are coming soon. I'm putting all the Inside the Mind episodes up ASAP once I record them on the Patreon feed, whereas I'm kind of drip feeding them throughout the month of November. So you also get early access to that. You get the show, the uncut version, on a Monday night. Plenty of benefits if you want to support us over there on Patreon. See the link in the show notes. Running news, boys.
Who's your next interview, Brady?
The next one might be you, I think, Croaks, actually. It's going to have to be you, Moose, or Zaka. Should see me DMs. My DMs went off the chart because I said in the intro of the first one I've only got 8 people booked and I want to do 10 episodes. So I reckon people just sliding in, suggesting people, there's some good suggestions, but I also think you can't do an episode like that with somebody that you've never spoken to or met before. Like you got to have some kind of relationship with them, or do you know what I mean? Because they're pretty heavy questions. So I'll talk about it in the intro of the next episode about some of the suggestions that have come in and why they're not appropriate. But and I'm very thankful that people are sending them in. But you've got to have some kind of connection to ask those kind of questions, I think.
Yeah.
Running news. Noosa Bolt happened. I watched this on Saturday night. I thought Craig Mottram was about to have a heart attack on the commentary. I reckon he was blowing harder than Jack Rayner was by the end of this call. Jack Rayner got the win.
You like the commentary?
He's high energy, isn't he?
Yeah.
But has he always been like that?
Grant Penny, so when Grant Penny commentates the Tassie carnivals over Christmas, Christmas New Year period, very similar energy, I reckon.
Yeah, which I don't mind because it's very much call it like it's a horse race.
Mm. But do you think Mottram, we got one of the best runners of all time in Australian, should he be making the call like that, or should he be providing insights slowly?
He should be expert comments.
Yeah.
I don't think you need a guy who's so knowledgeable to just be calling the race as if it is like a horse race.
But he was also the hype man and stuff as well. He was doing 3 jobs.
Mm.
It's like in the footy where you have Bruce doing the commentary and then they throw down to one of the ex-footy players for their comments or whatever.
But I think he had to do that in person too. So he was commentating for the crowd at the finish. Is that right?
Yeah. He was on the ground, on the finish line.
that is hard work. I mean, that is a high pressure job, that one.
He seems to enjoy it though. Like he obviously gets up and about for it.
Yeah, well, you're taking on a role. I thought it was interesting because it's an ASICS event, and he's a employee, I would guess you would say. Especially, you would say on representative, definitely. And so he was getting around in like an ASICS polo shirt with a logo, and he was in media on TV and stuff with ASICS on. It was just an interesting probably take. You step outside the on role altogether for that.
I found it interesting too, because he's obviously like building up Jack Rayner, like getting the crowd involved, how good's Jack, this and that. But then like Zach Faccioni was coming like third or fourth. And I'm like,
an athletic coach.
Yeah, like that's your coach. You're like, I feel that would be a hard situation to put him in.
Hard to be impartial.
I'd be like, we should be going out there and going these blokes. Anyway, Jack Rayner got the win, so this was stagger start, female start first. Did anyone know exactly what the gap was this year? I think they changed
2 minutes.
it.
I think.
2 minutes.
I think it was like 2 minutes. Yeah.
So he did catch, caught Caitlin Adams pretty close to the finish line. So Jack ran 13.56. Andre Waring was the second male across the line in 14.04. Jude Tobbers was third in 14.14. All eyes were pretty much on Jack chasing down the ladies, though. You didn't really get to see much of Andre and Jude until they kind of come in at the finish line there. Caitlin Adams did her best to try and run away with it, and then, probably 150 metres to go. Jack went past her, so she ran 16 minutes flat. Cara Feain-Ryan was second in 16.07. And Zoe Buckman, a bit of a return to form here. We've seen her come in a few races recently, but this is the one where I think she made it stick for as long as possible. Third in 16.17. What a year Caitlin Adams has had, winning the Noosa Bolt, also 12th at the World Road Running Championships, second to Sinead down at Burnie 10 a couple of weeks ago, who's pretty much the goat of Australian distance running at the moment. So good to see Caitlin Adams get the win there, fellas.
Was she your one to watch this year, was she?
She certainly was. Watching very closely about every win
wasn't
she
half
gets.
obvious.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I'm like, yeah, I think she had a pretty good year, but geez, I can't remember anything like staggering.
Yeah, I've had. I think my two. Obviously, we'll be recapping this in 6 weeks or so. But I think I had. Who was it? I think Morgan McDonald, and he obviously had a rough first half to the year, but then his last few months has been pretty decent. And then Steeplechaser, who's our
Amy Cashin.
Cashin, yeah. So don't think Amy's done a lot.
She went to World Champs, didn't she?
Surely we're doing this at the end of the year, not now.
Yeah, we are.
There's still some time to go.
I was just trying to remember who I had.
Yeah. I can't remember.
It was good to watch on a Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening, that kind of race.
Crowds. What about the crowds, Brady?
Crowds are huge,
They're like 4 or 5 deep.
Awesome.
Is it bigger fields as well? Like, did it used to be a bit elitist back in the day? I feel like there was like 50 guys running around that race.
Yeah, I reckon it used to be it was probably like a 17-minute sort of cut-off.
Oh, for men, quicker.
Yeah, no, I reckon it would. No, I don't reckon
it was 15
I still reckon
minutes.
it was about 7. I still reckon it was about 17, but people who were running 17 just didn't enter. Like they sort of just didn't want to be like part of it in a way.
Yeah, it would be a bit rough and lonely out there with all the turns being that far back.
Yeah.
And you'd end up getting lapped, wouldn't you, too, I reckon? Maybe. Don't know. 71 finishes across both genders. New York happened in the early hours of this morning. You guys watch it? I've seen the highlights, so I can talk about it a bit.
I saw the women's mile finish. That's all I've seen.
Well, pretty epic finish, wasn't it? 5 of them
Yeah.
coming in.
Oh, I only saw it when I started watching, 3 left only.
Okay. Was Cosguy the first? Was Cosguy the fourth?
She was out by then.
Yeah, in the orange. Hellen Obiri got the win. First person in 34 years to do the Boston-New York double in the same calendar year. She won in at 2:27.23. Letensenbet Gidey, 2:27.29. And Sharon Lokedi, who was a winner last year, she ran 2:27.33. They just jogged in, boys, from what I saw. No attack of the pace, and just made it a good old-fashioned kick down.
I can't comment, Brady. I recorded it, but went to work today, so I didn't have time to sit and watch it, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, that's what I saw in the highlights, that there was still a bigger pack, and they slowed things down and then, kicked it down. Gidey just can't win a race, can she? I swear,
No.
I said it 6 months ago and you guys had a crack at me.
It's really weird watching her finish, though. She, looked amazing. She
Did.
looked like she was about to absolutely brain them all. And then all of a sudden, Obiri just went and she looked terrible. She looks like a crazy person, running for home. And Gidey looks beautiful behind her, and then a gap develops, and you're like, hold on, what am I watching here? This doesn't seem right. It should be Gidey winning right now.
Yeah.
Obiri just tough as nails. And, I mean, obviously fast too, but, all that marathon training she does, still fast, though.
Yeah, well, she always was, wasn't she? When she kicks, not many people can go with it. She throws the arms everywhere. Whereas Gidey probably, she looks nicer in the finishing kick. Her technique doesn't change.
Yeah, she looked like she finished seemingly comfortable, which I guess if you jog for 40k and then kick home, it's not going to feel that bad. It's a really hard mile at the end, but you haven't really spent yourself like if it went from halfway and you just ran 20k hard. So, yeah.
And Gidey probably backed herself, because I'm guessing all these girls felt pretty comfortable at that pace. And Gidey's probably thinking, well, as long as I'm here, I can probably win in the last K, because what is she, the third fastest 5K runner of all time? She certainly run faster than what Hellen Obiri's run over 5K in terms of PBs. Yeah.
Yeah, would have still been a good payday for her in second.
Well, I mean, Obiri, $100,000.
Was it?
100 US for the win. Well, Tola got $100,000 US for the win.
You sent us that today, Brady.
No. That was for winning the World Marathon Major, the Abbots. It does a point score thing.
Oh.
You know how they take the results over 2 years?
You sure?
Yeah.
Oh.
Tola's victory marks his first World Marathon Major title after claiming 2 third-place finishes previously.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, that
Hang
means
on,
it's his first major win, Brady.
Yeah,
so he
yeah.
wins $100,000 for winning the race and another $50,000 for breaking the course record.
Just from yesterday?
Yeah.
Jeez. Is that documented?
Well, you sent it to us, you dickhead.
I know, I did. But before today, did you know that? I've never ever heard anyone say, oh, yeah, New York's $100,000 for the winner.
I wouldn't be surprised. That
I don't
seems
see
about
it.
right.
It's New York City Marathon. Their appearance fees.
I'm not saying it shouldn't be that way. I'm just saying I didn't know if that was documented. And when I first read it, I thought that was because he won the World Marathon Majors circuit thing.
Yeah, but this article that you sent it from is referring to the New York Marathon. It says here, the women's and men's winners each earned $100,000 for their performances. Tola won an additional $50,000 bonus for breaking the course record on Sunday. So, yeah. And that'd be US too, so it's almost 200,000 Aussie.
Yeah, I'm just looking at it now. Yeah, first thing you Google comes up, $100,000. Not a bad payday. I only sent that to you because he didn't do Sydney, and now he's gone and won $150,000 US. So there's something for you. We're meant to see him against you, Moose. Albert Korir. Oh, so Tola ran a course record. We said that, 2:04.58.
Yeah, he's going all right, isn't he?
That's quick. That's quick over there.
And he won by 2 minutes. Well, 1 minute 59 seconds. 2:06 for a Korir in second. 2:06.57. And Kitata, good to see him back. 2:07.11. He ran a 14:08. I'm going to say between 25 and 30k, or was it 30 and 35k? But somewhere in there, he put the foot down and ran away with it. Pretty cool to see by Tamirat.
Cam Levins, your boy.
My boy, DNF. Did see a tweet from him this morning saying he didn't feel good from the start.
Could you imagine running 170 miles a week? Quick conversion on that for me. 60, 70. What does it equal? 250k a week or something?
272.
to not finish the race. There's people out there running 20k a week who finish the race. This bloke's running 272k a week. Can't finish the race.
He doesn't want to just finish, though.
Yeah,
I know.
You know that.
But come on. How much... you're running 3 times a day thinking of this race, and then you pull out before halfway. That's just... it's just a comical situation. in my mind.
This is what he put on Twitter. Quick update from today. Not injured or anything. Just felt real crummy from the start and things didn't improve. We'll take some time to rest and reevaluate training, then get back and be better.
Yeah, like...
He did run 205 early in the year though, didn't he? So this is what happens when you train like that. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, but can you imagine running 3 times a day and like you ran 153k this week. Add another 120 on that somehow.
It triples.
Yeah. Yeah. Fuck. Just the mind-numbingness of it. Like, you would just be thinking, and you think about this race coming up the whole time, and then you're out before halfway.
It doesn't, it's that old, like, the work you put in doesn't equal the result. Like, his like, return on his investment, and I'm talking about his time as an investment, what he's put into it to get a DNF. You're just like, that's pretty cruel.
Yeah, yeah.
I guess he's at the point where it's like, well, if I can't win this, or at least podium, then I don't really want to, I don't care about it.
Yeah, go again, reload.
Yeah.
The New South Wales 3K champs, Croaks, what can you tell me about that?
So I saw the men's race here. So Josh Phillips took the lead maybe halfway through and was able to sort of grind out the win. With in the last lap, it was pretty much Josh Phillips, Sam Clifford, and Connor Whiteley. Josh got the win in 8 flat 0.01. Sam Clifford second, 8 minutes 0.63, and Connor Whiteley third in 8:05. The women's race, Holly Campbell, she was in front at 200 and was ahead at the finish line, ran 9:04. Carley Thomas second, 9:07, and Jaylah Hancock-Cameron was third in 9:11.
Carley Thomas, is she not at school right now?
Yeah, I know she must be back over here.
Washington.
Yeah, I thought so, because she just signed that next in line deal.
Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe she just
On.
hasn't gone back yet. But she she closed in like a 60. She had the quickest last lap of the race. So she was a fair way behind with a lap to go and ended up being 3 seconds behind in the end. Yeah,
it's a pretty good field for the ladies there in the ladies field. The men's is pretty good too.
It gets tough, like, because they had obviously Noosa, so there's a few New South Wales people up in Noosa as well.
Good. The other bit of news was we got Elise Cranny leaving the Bowerman Track Club. You picked this last week, Moose. Well done on the whisper. You said she was going.
Box ticked.
No anymore. Where's she going? What's she doing?
No
Biggest
idea.
Female name. None of them ever announce where they're going, do they?
No. Where are they going to pop up? Because no one has, right?
Yeah.
Grant Fisher, Woody Kincaid never went anywhere, really, did he?
Didn't he go to that guy, is it Mike Smith?
Oh, is he there now?
But Mike Smith doesn't actually officially have a group, so it's just like you're just kind of with Mike Smith's coaching you, but you're kind of doing your own thing a bit as well in flag stuff.
Yeah, okay, gotcha.
So I know the Coffee Club boys were saying that like Grant knows his own training and could just coach himself and just be in flag stuff.
It's funny that he's gone from a coach who took a job as a college coach and left for whatever reason, but let's just say it wasn't getting enough attention as a because like that was one of the theories that's getting talked about, not dedicating enough time to the professional athlete to go and get coached by another coach who's a head or who's a coach at a college. That doesn't seem like it would be the reason why he left. It
seems like though with Bowerman it was almost like a package deal that if you're part of Bowerman you live where Bowerman are based, which is obviously Eugene, whereas I suppose if you leave Bowerman and you go to Mike Smith will write you the program, but you have the option then of training in Flagstaff for a bit, or then living in Portland, and then also I think Mike Smith probably coaches people from who are sponsored by all different sort of brands, and then they just come together and train together.
I don't know anything about it, to be honest.
Well, I think he coaches, people from all different sort of, who are sponsored by all different brands that are pros. Because he's obviously got Galen, Woody, there's a couple of others as well, I think. I don't think they're all Nike based.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, anyway, don't know too much about it.
And a bit of drug news, Croaks.
Yeah, so we would have So we would have spoken about this whenever she was first banned, but Nora Jarutu of Kazakhstan. So she won the World Championship steeple in Eugene. So she was banned, I guess, a while ago for not so much for blood doping, or she didn't have a positive test. It was to do with her that blood passport, and so it's been sort of overturned as a result of them proving that she had COVID and also stomach ulcers, and these stomach ulcers caused her to lose significant amounts of blood, which affected supposedly these biological passports. They do have the option to appeal. So the Athletics Integrity Unit, which brought the charges, will review the decision before deciding whether to appeal to the Court of Arbitration for Sport. So, seems a bit odd. Yeah.
Watch this space on that one.
But I guess that's the problem with proving somebody's it's different if somebody's had a positive drug test, but even then with the Peter Bowl, even though somebody's tested positive, it doesn't necessarily mean they're taking drugs. This is even harder to detect because they haven't tested positive to anything. It's just a change in their I guess, blood work. And that's how they ban people. So
the whole thing's a real shit show, I reckon.
It is, yeah.
Real hard. All right, listener question.
Let's go with running elevation versus strength training. Equal benefits or one greater than the other? Thanks. And that comes from Jack Wagonet. I'll just check. That's his Instagram. I'll just check. That's from Jack.
On you, Jack. What do you reckon, Moose?
Oh, very different. So definitely not equal benefits. If you're considering, let's say you have patellofemoral issue, right? And so you need some quad strength. Well, going out and running up a hill might get you some quad strength, but it's also doing it with a lot of high impact activity, and it's not like heavy resistance training. You don't get there's a few things here. So the first thing is that resistance training you do heavier generally, and so you can apply much more load to the muscle that you're trying to strengthen to get bigger adaptions than just by going up a hill, which is less load more often. And you also going up a hill or going down a hill can condition yourself to that movement for sure. But you don't necessarily go through the range to really strengthen those muscles as well. So it's very sort of smaller range. You're not doing as heavy work. You might not be actually isolating the muscles like you want to if you really want to target that strength benefit. So it's very different, and there's the risk associated with it too. So yeah, you might get stronger glutes if you go and run up hills every day, but your risk of getting injured doing that is pretty high because it's high level load on certainly your knee going downhill. And uphill, maybe your calf and Achilles takes a fair bit of brunt running uphill a lot. So I don't look at it like that.
Okay, Croaks, anything to add?
Look, I don't think they're equal benefits. I think if you don't have the ability to run over hills, then it's definitely worth some form of strength training to be an overall stronger athlete. But most people listen to this podcast don't have time to train, run heaps plus do strength training. So I think you can get a lot of your strength from running hills. You look guys like Deke and Mona, I don't think they spend a lot of time in the weights room. So I think if you can run over lots of hills, then you probably don't need to be in the gym quite as much. If your time, obviously if you got all the time in the world, do both. But if you're time poor and you can run over hills, then that's pretty good. But if you don't have any elevation in your week, then some strength training is probably worth looking at.
Good work, fellas. Some real expert advice there from you two.
Get ready to lace up for a cause that matters. More Than a Run, powered by Lululemon, is a hybrid event spanning across Australia and New Zealand, uniting the running community to support men's health. Join as an individual or enter a team with your club or run crew and choose to run the More Than a Run 10K, 30K or 60K on November 25th. For more information on how to get involved, visit morethanarun.com.au.
Moose on the loose. What do you got this week, Moose?
Oh,
How's the dog fence going?
It's actually going all right.
Good.
To be honest. Like, it needs a bit more training on it. I need a few more flags, but he's going all right. The problem is, now I've got these fucking snakes that if I can't really just let him out in the backyard. So he's back on the deck again, locked in. So it's only going to really work on cold days or winter. Yeah, but we'll get there. I've got to work out a solution. He actually prefers it inside in his crate anyway. Likes being in there, like, cooler than on the deck. The deck gets pretty hot. But drivers. Oh, I was so mad tonight. So mad at these people that drive through the street. Like, these are streets that families live on. And it's the kind of community where kids play in the street. You know, like, they'll be playing cricket and then a car comes and they jump off the side. Or they've got a dog and the dog's kind of just running around like it's no big deal. And you've got these fucking dickheads that put their foot down, drive like 80k an hour through a 50k an hour street, whip around blind corners. And it correlates to the long weekends and the summer holidays and the times when the town gets an influx of people from the city. So, like, I don't understand why, if you come to a small town, you think that you can kind of just drive, like, with no regard for other people like that, and no regard for kids. Like, I'm out running, and I've had Pia, like, on the Bree's got her on the bike seat, and they whip around on a dirt road, like, within 1.5 meters of us. Fucking, like, you're messing with people's lives.
Do you put your arm out, like, just shouting, like, slow down, like, wave your arm?
Oh,
that's what I do.
I was thinking about putting a sign up on this one notorious corner, and the sign would say, if you don't slow down, you might get a rock through the windshield, or something like that.
Ooh, okay.
And I just think, all right, well, maybe the guy that whips around the corner here thinks that's a bluff. Or maybe he thinks, fuck, there's a 10% chance that's not a bluff, and if I speed round here, there's a person waiting, he'll just chuck a rock through my windscreen. And that causes him to slow down a little bit to the speed limit. Now, that's enough for me. Then maybe that I get 1 out of 10 people like that. Or maybe I sit behind that corner and fucking throw rocks through people's windshields.
Have you got police in Anglesea?
Like, part-time.
Yeah. And
they ain't putting speed cameras up around that area. That's what I'm thinking. This is what I'm talking about. Like, you got to take the law into your own hands. If the police aren't there to enforce the law, then it comes down to the community to do it. You got to stand up for your community. And so I have a perfect place set up. One little pebble through that window. What do? They stop. They go, "What the fuck are you doing?" I said, "Slow down. Look, the sign warned you. You've done this for 5 days in a row. You would have seen the sign by now."
And then he pulls a knife out.
Mate, have you seen me You haven't seen me street fight yet.
No, I haven't.
I told you last week I was Rambo. I've got a whole past life. They make movies about me one day.
Yeah, right, yeah. Black belt in karate or something like that?
Yeah, it's just street style.
Street style. Very good. Who's typing other stuff in here? Craig, you got a couple?
I got a couple just from the last week. You know, so one's around around shoe regulations again. So one of the guys I coach, he's like relatively new to running, would like to run a 10K on the track, and the ACT 10K champs are on this coming weekend. So he contacts ACT Athletics, and they've basically said for him to run the ACT 10K champs, he has to comply to the World Athletics shoe standards. Now, the ACT 10K champs literally has like 5 people in it max. And so he hasn't done a lot in spikes, and I'm not going to put him out there in a pair of spikes for 10K when he's hardly running them. But it's just killing the sport, especially when you like. Surely it wouldn't be that hard to put an asterisk against. If you've got 5 people in the field, it's pretty easy to go through what shoes you're wearing. Are they compliant? Yes, tick, tick, tick. Okay, your time doesn't necessarily count. Yes, you can obviously time it yourself, and you've run 10K on the track in a race, but it's not going to be on a World Athletics profile. Like, surely it's not that difficult, especially when you consider it wasn't that long ago that if you look at people like Stewie, so Stewie's 10,000 metre PB on his World Athletics profile, I'm pretty sure was from Box Hill that night in a pair of super shoes. Brady, your PB...
I was there that night with him, yeah. Set my PB the same night.
Your official PB on World Athletics is in a pair of super shoes. Now you're basically stopping people from running a 10K on the track in a pair of super shoes, even if they don't care so much about their time being super official.
It's a stupid rule. I don't get... If they were that super on the track, why doesn't everyone wear them in track races?
I agree. I reckon they just open it up to the track and then...
Let people run.
Because I get it.
So at least let them run and give them an asterisk, like you said.
Yeah, like... So, and it's okay. Like, let's say there was 4 or 5 races at the ACT 10K champs. Okay, the A race, then you potentially have to do it, which that will be this race because there'll only be one race. Whereas, you go to... I don't know, probably even like Vic 5K, the B race. You could probably wear super shoes and race that night and not have an issue. I did actually reach out to somebody on this topic, and the issue is that they actually have to pay a certain amount of money or apply for meets to have basically be accredited with World Athletics so that people can actually qualify for, nationals and world championships and that sort of thing, and everybody in the race needs to comply to those regulations. But it just seems to be really bad for the sport. Like, here's this guy that he ran 16:30 park run on the weekend, wants to go and run a 10K track race, and he won't do it now because it's plus ACT Athletics misses out on his $30 entry fee.
Yeah, it's no science.
It's a barrier, isn't it? It's a barrier to get people to run.
Yeah, so that's one, and my other one was just yesterday. So one of the guys I coach, when I was doing my 30-minute run, I sort of worked out roughly what time the guy should get through sort of 8 to 9K, and I saw him way ahead of time, and so I had to sort of take a few back streets to get onto the course so I could actually see him. And I'm like, mate, like, there's no one behind you. He's like, oh yeah, missed a turn within the first K. And I'm just like, how does that happen? Like Marshall's lead, like there was a lead bike with him at that point, but there was no lead bike in the first K. I don't know. Just that stuff annoys me when people train hard. They go there to have like a pretty legit race, and their race is potentially ruined in the first kilometre because there's no marshals, and the lead bike comes in, too late. As it turns out, because it was a 2-lap course, the bit that he missed on the first lap, he tried to make it up on the second lap. But anyway, there are a couple of rants from me.
Good work from you. I like that. Been a bit muzzled the last couple of months with his shoe deal he's got, Moose.
But the real problem with this is not the marshal. They're a volunteer. It's the directions given. Yeah, they get treated like it's all common sense. And maybe some of it is, but at the same time, like, if I've organised a race before or been involved with it, like, you don't take chances. You don't go, oh, they'll know what to do there, that's okay. You're like, this is what has to happen at this point. Like, and there's no, like, there has to be very clear what the job is.
Yeah.
So what ended up happening was he tried to make up as much of the distance as he could, and when he crossed the line, like, his watch said, I think it was like right on 21K, like maybe 20.98. So, he pretty much, because I think the part that he missed was maybe like 400 or 500 meters or something. So he made up most of it. He was that far in front that, it wasn't an issue. And then they actually just gave him like a minute time penalty on top of it. Because he ran like 72, and then they put a time penalty on it. So it ended up being 73, which was still enough to win the race. So that's what they ended up doing, which, I guess the main thing was that he was still awarded the win, ran pretty much the course. I'll give a shout out to actually Zach for that, Zach Rosser and Alex, who won the women's half Yeah.
We don't shout out the 10K winners, mate.
Well, we can, yeah. So the women's
out,
was Rosie Webber. So she's been named a few times. She runs 35.19, and Michael Chapman was the winner of the men's in 32.27.
Stewie had spikes on that night, Croaks.
Was it? Oh, but remember, was that
the one at Albert Park? He did though. He had the red 4%ers on.
Yeah, remember so he had the 4% with the spikes in. Remember they were doing that?
Yeah,
that was the thing for a while.
Yeah.
That was the thing.
And I reckon these ones, 2019 Moose, it looks like maybe an early edition of Dragonfly.
Yeah, because do you know
The other boys were in
2019?
Matumbos, I reckon.
2019 Women's 10K World Championship final. Sinead Diver only won on the track in a pair of super shoes. That was and I reckon if they that was still kind of traditional then. As in, when I say traditional, I mean I don't think that appreciated that super shoes would benefit you on the track. And then I reckon if you had have done that a year later, they would all have super shoes on the track. Because then the college kids started wearing them and it just started to take off after that.
About half this field's got them, like Benny Saint's wearing them.
Yeah. Would you have an issue though if they actually just made it like whatever shoes you wear on the road, you can wear on the track, and it's legal?
Yeah, I wouldn't have an issue with that.
It just creates accessibility. It just makes it better.
And it cleans it up because there's people now whose PBs like yourself, Brady, who you're potentially at an advantage to people now that have to wear spikes or whatever. I just reckon just open it up as long as they're road legal. You can wear them in any race.
Jen Gregson was in the next percent in this when she won it this year. Have a look at that photo there. We got do you see that, Moose? I just sent it to you. It's Pat Tiernan in a Matumbo and Stewie in a maybe they're both Dragonflies. You see the photo I sent you? Bad radio.
Yeah.
But remember it was a sprint finish that night. I wonder if they were in different shoes, both Nike boys.
That black shoe doesn't look like the Dragonfly, does it? The plate looks different.
Just sent a better picture. Check that one out. I've never seen the colourway of the one Pat's wearing anyway. Where's Moose going when we need him, Croaks?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. That's a Matumbo Pat's wearing.
Yeah.
You can tell by the spike plate on the front view, and then on the side view, just have a look at the amount of foam on that forefoot. Look how flat that is. Whereas Stewie's got like that full length foam.
Oh boy! So you saying Pat would have won if they're in the same? If they're in the same shoe that night?
No. You asked me what spike it was.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Controversy years later. Whispers this week, fellas. So after this one, it's come in. Calvin Kipton. It's going to run Rotterdam Marathon. We got that wrong last week. Bit of a translation issue with my man on the ground in Kenya, which is a big flex from Calvin to say, you know what, World Marathon Majors don't need your money. I'm going to go run a second-tier marathon over in Rotterdam because my manager is the guy who puts the field together. I love that from Calvin. Then that's what we're going to see from Calvin. He's just going to do things not the traditional way in the sport. And that's what I love about him. Thoughts?
Rotterdam. Maybe they've organised some
April.
sort of... some organiser, like, we're not going to test you after this if you come run with us, you reckon?
Oh, I didn't think that. No, I thought it was just a draw card from his manager. But yeah, I guess they... Which, you been paid from Sydney yet? I've got to wait to get paid until the drug testing comes back.
No, I haven't, but I know some of these big ones take a while to pay out.
I was just reading the contract today and I was like, oh yeah, everyone's got to come back clean to get paid. Which I guess that's right because you got to pay the right person, don't you?
Yeah. You can't be if you pay early, no one's giving money back. That's for sure.
Yeah. Any whispers across your desks? That's all I had tonight.
Oh. Well, what about Carley Thomas signing with On? Still no group name though. Next in line deal. Don't think you have to name a group yet. So
you're not sure which On group?
Well, she's Australian, so perhaps she is locked into the Australian group, or maybe she's going to be a rogue On operator. Unsure.
Okay. Anything you got, Croaks?
No, I got very, very little this week.
What's coming up then, boys? What are you doing between now and next week, Bradley?
A bit of single parenting. Viv's off to Melbourne for Spring Carnival she's heading down Wednesday to do the fashions on the Thursday.
Oh, yeah, just while I've got you on that. Like, when she goes and wears a dress to these things, do you have to wear a suit that matches it?
Well, I often...
Or a shirt or a tie or something?
No, you don't.
Yeah.
Well, only if you're entering couples.
No, but if I'm just going... So I'm going to the races tomorrow, and I put a suit and a shirt on today just to check that it was ready to go. And Carly's like, you can't wear that, doesn't match my dress. And I'm like, I don't think this is a rule. I'll ask Viv Croker.
Yeah, no, I'll just ask Viv. Oh, she's got the headphones in.
Don't worry about it.
That's the only time you do that is I think when you're like competing, because they do have like couples competitions.
No competing going on here. Anyway, Moose, what do you got coming up?
Oh, nothing. No, I'm back to work. Back to work tomorrow.
Just putting hay in the barn.
Yeah, I got nothing to do. We got a bit of a project. Plan the season for second half 2024. So starting to see some pretty cool shoes come through that were released back then. Saw a really cool one from Asics. Can't really talk about this stuff yet.
Performance shoe though.
It's from their performance running range, yeah.
Or Super Blast 2. When's that coming? Just cough if that's what we're talking about.
I can't even do it. To you.
Because what do you got? I heard on Shoe Geeks there's another drop coming in December.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
So
long run shoe only for me now, my Super Blast. And then I just
save them.
Save them for long runs, and then I'll just wait till December.
Put your name down. Chuck your name down on our list. We'll sort you out.
Size 8, thanks.
Size 8? Yeah, they fit a bit big.
Yeah. Anyway, interview this week, boys. Ryan Mannix, thanks to Lululemon, because we're partnering with Lululemon for the month of November. Ryan's one of the ambassadors, rich history in running. We used to live with Lee Troop in Ballarat, Moose, so there's some Ballarat stories in there. Bit of duathlon, bit of yoga, probably well known now for his yoga, but yeah, used to kick around the AV scene. And I caught up with him today for about a 45-minute chat, so I hope those listeners enjoy this one. See you, boys. We're done.
Have a good week.
See you, mate.
Boys.
Could've stayed hung up, could've been knocked down, but here I stand, a man whose roots he understands, and I'm gonna hold my head up high. I was told as a young man, doesn't matter if you're white or black.
This week's guest on the Inside Running podcast comes to us thanks to Lululemon, who are our partner all of November. Ryan Mannix is an ambassador for the brand and has a history in running a duathlon, and now is the number one yoga man in Australia. That's my line I've given him anyway. He was also just telling me off air that he won his first park run on Saturday. Ryan Mannix, welcome to the Inside Running podcast.
Thanks, man. I'm lovely to be here. Stoked to have this opportunity to chat to you, and also to reach out to some of my old running mates and reflect on some of the old running memories that I have.
Yeah, I think I was just saying to you off air, when I first met you, you were the yoga guy, and it wasn't until we were talking at the front of a hotel in Tokyo that you started telling me about your running experiences, your time living with Lee Troop and running for the Richmond Harriers, and Johnny Marr, I think, was your first athletics coach back in the day, that I was like, oh shit, this guy actually is like a diehard runner at heart, and then he's evolved into the yoga side of things. So looking forward to unpacking a few stories, and yeah, looking forward to just having a chat about all things running, yoga, life. Maybe we'll get some Lululemon plugs in there about what kit you're wearing at the moment. But yeah, massive thanks for giving us some time on a Monday morning.
Mate, thanks for having me.
First one, can you remember how you first got into running? Like, were you one of those guys that did it as little athletics and just loved it from then on?
Well, no, I mean, I was never really good at running early on. I used to love skateboarding and hanging out with my mates. And but my old man, my dad, used to always be in a triathlon. So at a really young age, let's say maybe 7 or 8, I used to go down with my bike, and I'd go for the easy run on my bike next to them. So it sort of got me into it, more of the community aspect. It just seemed like a good time hanging out with mates. They'd always be having a laugh, and it was just that sort of easy run mentality. And that sort of got me into it. And then it wasn't until, I'd say, high school, where it sort of really kicked off. As you said, Johnny Marr was my first coach. Funnily enough, actually, I just went to John Marr, who's quite a well-known running coach in Melbourne, went to his 60th birthday on the weekend, a couple of weekends ago. So it was great to see him, and it's great to see all the boys still up and about. He's had some great runners through. So it wasn't until then I sort of, where I went to school, Marsland had a really good running program, and it was either go down the skateboard line, and I feel like a lot of the crew that I was hanging out with at that point were sort of skateboarding, doing street art, all that sort of stuff. So it wasn't really the best sort of lane to be going down. So I chose the running lane, and Johnny Marr took me under his wing, and there was a really good, I mean, it was just such fertile soil for good running at that point. Like, he'd have me in, we'd jump in the car and roll down on a Sunday morning. This is when I was like 13 years old. We'd go down to Ferny Creek, and you're running with the likes of like Julian Painter, and sometimes you'd even see like the old Deeks out and about at that point. And it was just really good, like, just to be in that sort of running circle from a really young age did definitely build the foundations for good running for my future. And running was it. This was like something that I wanted to be the best I could be in. So I just trained hard, and I never thought I'd be teaching yoga, that's for sure. I couldn't even touch my knees at that point. So
was it hard training then? Like, I just feel like some of the guys that have come out of that program were always, I could have it wrong, this was just on the outside looking in, but they seem to like be good at the longer distances at a young age. Like, I'm thinking of like guys that might have been a bit younger than you, like Matt Collo, Steve Kelly.
Yep.
Like, I'm trying to think who else is there, but they always used to be strong, and I always used to think like they must be doing a lot of work at a young age to be that strong.
I mean, I think because it was definitely very, Johnny was always a marathon runner, so I felt like the long run was always in the program. It was probably the emphasis of the program. Speed work was there, like, definitely I know John, with the boys that he's coaching now, is doing a lot more speed work, but back in the day, it was always the run long at Ferny, a long run at Ferny on a Sunday, long run on a Wednesday. We'd either be out in Warrandyte or Diamond Creek running like the dippers and all the hills and so forth on the Sunday. So really just volume was a big part of the program. And for instance, it doesn't work for everyone, but it definitely worked for me. I feel like the volume aspect of things helped me a lot. Didn't help me that much on the track, but later on down the track when I started to do 10Ks, 15 half marathons, road running, it definitely sort of helped. And especially with cross country, as you know, like as a school athlete, cross country is a big sort of program. So you get to race every Saturday. You've got a big cross country program. You've got the Vic Champs, you've got the nationals and so forth. So having that aerobic engine from an early age, I think, helped a lot.
Yeah. Can you remember like some of your favourite races over the years? Like, I know you won parkrun on the weekend, but like, what else? What can you throw back to? Tell us about some of the things that stick in your mind.
Well, definitely. I remember we had this. It was the schoolboys cross country crew that were good. That I think it was like a selected team. Went to race the Ballarat sort of division selected team. We had a run around Lake Renderee, which was the first time I've ever sort of done a lap of the lake. Then I went, funnily enough, I lived in Ballarat later on in my life, so I ran that lake pretty much every day of my life when I was living there. But the first day, I remember we were out, the gun had gone and got off to a good start, and I was sort of in the lead pack. There was probably 4 or 5 of us, and it's a long way around that lake if you sort of, because you can just always see the finish, so it just seems like it's a long way around. But I just remember going to the front and running really well, and about 200 metres from the finish line, there was this massive puddle, and I thought I'd just run through it. But it was as deep as my knees, so I fell over about 200 to go and ended up coming like third in that race. But it was a really memorable race. That and also the first time I made the Vic Champs. I mean, that was a definitely sort of like one of my goals as a high school athlete, to make the Victorian Championships and just put on the Victorian jersey. And I remember in year 11, it was like they took the first 7 places, and I remember Johnny Marr was on the course yelling out, "You're in 8th, you're in 7th, you're in 6th, you're in 7th, you're in 8th." And with like 100 to go, I just snuck in the 7th place and put the jersey on for the first time. And as you know, whenever you put a jersey on for the first time, it's pretty rewarding, and it gives you motivation to keep going. And that's what it did.
This is at Bundoora. Is that where
Bundoora? The hilly Bundoora course, which She's a hard course, especially when it's windy and it's wet in cross-country season. It makes it even more challenging.
Oh, especially when you're a junior as well. Like, listeners would have heard of, Moose and I have raced there a number of times over talking about this podcast. But as a junior, it was real cutthroat because, as you said, like, it was, I think it was maybe, top 6, top 8, whatever it was. Like, you make that top position, you get picked in the Victorian team, and all of a sudden you're the kid walking around school with all the Team Vic on. You get flown to, you got to sell the raffle tickets to get flown to nationals, and you get to put on the big V, which is huge when you're in primary school.
Well, then I remember going to Oakbank in Adelaide, and we raced the nationals at Oakbank. And
I went that year.
You went. Well, I was white as a ghost. I felt so nervous, and I stood on the start line, and I couldn't even feel my body. And the gun went, and I think I finished like probably almost last in that race. I was just overwhelmed with nerves as a youngster. Yeah, as you know, like your first big sort of competition, just the nerves got the better of me. Yeah,
I think. What year was that? Can you remember off the top of your head? I'm putting you on the spot.
Oof.
2001, 2002, something like that.
Around that, yeah. It was a really hard. I think it was they'd put those hay barrels on. You had to jump over hay and so forth. It just made it
like rocks or sand or something at one stage.
It was a classic cross-country course.
Can you remember who won it?
No, I can't remember at all. I just remember some of the Brisbane kids were running around barefoot, absolutely just belting everyone else.
They all looked like men too, didn't they? Those Queensland kids. And then you never see them ever again. Just come out, dominate cross-country and go on. I reckon Liam Adams beat Dave McNeil at the year I did it. I'll have to look that up afterwards.
It's good memories. I mean, all that sort of stuff, it definitely gave me scope for the way I sort of set intentions and go after goals and set sort of goals and have things to work towards. I think that was really good, sort of a great way to sort of be brought up in that sort of running space.
Can you remember like your PBs and stuff? Like I know you got some impressive ones off the bike in duathlon, which we'll get to a bit further down the chat. But can you remember like some of the times you were putting out? Kind of like those juniors,
I mean, as a
schoolboy.
Schoolboy in uni, I mean, the goal was always to break 15 minutes for 5K, which I just snuck under. The goal was to always break 9 minutes for 3K. So I ran 8:45, and I remember running that in a 5K one night as I think a year 12 athlete and pulled out at 3K. I knew I was just going to go to the 3K. So I was, you get sucked along in an A grade interclub or state league night. And I remember that was my PB there. 4 minutes for 1500. I never broke it. My goal was to break 4. I ran 4:02 again at state league. So my top end speed wasn't super duper, but I could sort of hold it. I felt like I was definitely good to hold that sort of rhythm. So that was sort of it. And then just the cross country, I felt like I really dominated when the times got a little tougher. I felt like I was really good at that sort of stuff. I was small and light, so I'd sort of fly through the mud. I was pretty good over the hills. Growing up in Doncaster, it was a hilly sort of place to run. I was always running over hills, Diamond Creek, Warrandyte. So that was sort of my sort of strengths as a runner.
Yeah, and then you found yourself in Ballarat for uni and living with Lee Troop. I don't know how does that happen?
Well, I used to read a lot of books, and I was lucky enough I had Mona's book, and I really love Steve Monaghetti. Something about him, the way he ran, and obviously he was an icon in the world of distance running. And growing up with Johnny Marr, we used to go to Falls Creek every summer, and there'd be a crew of us go up, and you'd get to run with Monas, and you get to run. I mean, it's one of the sports, and I'm probably sure you've spoken about this before, but it's one of the sports that you can run with the elite. It's like you can't go and kick a footy with Carlton Footy Club every day of your life. So it was great to sort of go up and be in the mix with those guys and just get talking to them. I knew Monas was a school teacher and lived in Ballarat, and I knew he had a good crew of runners at the time. So I was always like, okay, I'm going to try and make it as a runner. I'm going to do my best. I really want to represent my country at something. So I've chosen running. I'm going to go for it. So as soon as I had the opportunity to leave high school, and I decided to move to Ballarat, inspired by Monas. And I remember being up there, and I'd just go and hang out with them. I'd go and do the runs with them and so forth, and running around doing the warm-up for the Mona fight, like on a Tuesday night. And I was talking to a guy called Paul Burgie. Him and Troopy were living together, and he said, yeah, we're looking for a housemate. And I was like, well, I'm looking to come up to study university. And so it was just luck. And I felt like that's sort of been the story of my life. I've just thrown myself into things, and it's just sort of opened doorways, which I'm sure, for a lot of people, if you do things, just that's the progression point. And, doorways open, and opportunities arise. So that was the first great opportunity, living with Troopy. I remember he was sponsored by Nike. It was just when he won the second year I was living with him. He broke Ron Clark's 5K record at I think it was a track classic or something one night on a Friday night, and so he was sponsored by Nike. He came home and we went out to 21 Arms, which was this place in Ballarat everyone used to go out, and Troopy wore his race kit out, so he didn't get changed for the whole night. He was on the dance floor in his Nike race kit, and it was just fun. It was just a great sort of environment to be in. Like, it wasn't too serious. It was serious enough, but it wasn't too serious. I used to be someone who would definitely get like overwhelmed with nerves and anxiety before races. So it was a great sort of place to hang out in, a really nice sort of crew to hang out with. They didn't take it too seriously, but again, they took it seriously when it came to training.
Well, Troopy was a real like train hard, party hard kind of guy, wasn't he? Like, whereas Mono was just train hard, like not so much the party inside of things.
I mean, it just opened up. Like, I remember, like, if I'd sleep in, Monas would be knocking on my window, get up, get out of bed for the morning run. And I was like, this is sensational. Like, going from reading Mona's book to having him knocking on your window saying, get out of bed. And knowing Ballarat, if you've got some Ballarat listeners, which I'm sure you would, you know, having some super cold mornings, you're running in 2 tracksuits, you got your beanie on, a pair of gloves, and sometimes it was hard to get out of bed, but having Monas and Troopy to run with made it a lot easier for sure.
Yeah, it would have been pretty special. And then you found yourself in Kenya for a while, is that right?
Well, that's right. I mean, I always want to, as I said, like, if there's someone that's inspiring me, I tend to gravitate towards them and try and hang out with them as much as I can. So Monas was definitely a doorway into the running fraternity in Australia and the running community in Australia. So I felt like that was a really nice stepping stone. And then a lot of crew would come out for the Melbourne Track Classics. A lot of the Kenyans would come out, and then they would come up to Ballarat and stay with us in Ballarat. And because we had a spare room at times, sometimes I'd stay in the house. So I got friendly with some of those guys, and they said that they've got a program up in a place called Iten, which is sort of maybe an hour out of Eldoret. So as soon as I finished high school, I moved to Ballarat. As soon as I finished university, I thought, well, the East Africans were the best in the world at that point, so I'm going to move to Kenya and just roll the dice and see what happens. And I actually had this poster of Moses Tunui, who was the first guy to go under 60 minutes on my wall, and I just loved the way he ran. He ran this race against Gabriel Salesi one night. I think it was a World Champs 10K, and Gabriel Salesi was just sitting on him for the whole race, and with 400 to go, kicked his shoe off. I don't know if you've ever seen this race. He stood and he kicked his shoe off, and Tunui went after it, and I just loved the way he sort of attacked races and went from the front. I'm in this taxi from Nairobi up to Eldoret, and a taxi that was meant to take like 5 hours ended up taking like 11 hours. It broke down like 3 times and all the rest, which is probably typical in Kenya at that point. Got to Kenya, got to Eldoret, which was all the hotels closed at 9 p.m. and we got there at like 10 p.m. And the 2 people that I'd befriended in the taxi, these 2 nuns, they said, I told them my story, I wanted to come up to run, and they were like, where are you going to live? And I said, well, I'm just going to rent a hotel and go and run where I can run and see if I can jump into some of the crews. They said, I know a runner, we'll take you to our friend's house. So we kept going in the taxi, and we were driving through all these sort of shunty streets, like run down, like, and then we started driving through all these streets with like absolute mansions, big palaces, palatial sort of properties. And we pulled up out the front of one, knocked on the door. This maid came to the door, took me in, and they eat dinner quite late in Kenya, like 10:30 p.m. And at the table there was Moses Tunui, and he invited me in for dinner, and I ended up living with Moses for about 7 months.
No, just from that chance.
Just from that chance, absolutely. So, and then I befriended his son, and I still talk to his son on like social media and so forth. And I befriended like some of the maids that lived in his house. So they sort of didn't want to let me go. So I ended up just staying with Moses. Moses was a pretty strict sort of dude, but and the training was really hard. I remember the first run, he was like, okay, you meet me here 6 a.m. in the morning. I was there at like 5:30, ready to go. And, you know, I'm running with like, there was, you know, Moses Tunui, Paul Turgat, there was like Wilson Kipketer, like all these athletes that I just admired and watched on the tally, and then you're running beside them in Kenya. I mean, I wasn't running well, I was getting dropped, but at the same time I was starting out with them, that's for sure. Yeah,
it was your threshold effort on their easy jogs, like doing strides before you meet them, just to make sure you're ready to go.
Yeah, tapering for the easy run.
And you went solo, like when you say like you just got off the plane in Nairobi.
Yeah, I mean, my parents split up when I was super young, so I was hanging out with my mum at the time, and she was going through a rough patch, and it was easy for me to sort of, I decided just to take off and do my thing. So
as a bit of an escape, you mean, just get out of there.
Kind of I think so, and just sort of take on life rather than sort of wait for people. I was just like, well, I'm just going to go and do it and make it happen and get out and about. So, and through that sort of vehicle, I've learned that it's been really helpful actually, just to try things, fail, try again. I failed a lot of times, but just to give things a go, I think it's definitely been favourable.
What did you learn from him being over there for 7 months? I'm not sure if you're still up to date with it, how they train at the moment, but what were some of your learnings from being over there?
Well, I remember going to one camp. We ended up going to a camp for 2 months. It was a pretty hard conditions camp. It was in you slept on a mattress, you washed from a bucket, electricity went out at 7 p.m. So it's not much to do. It was pretty lonely and isolated, but the things that it taught me was simplicity, just to keep things super simple. Simple was great, the simple way of living and not too much to think about and not too much to possess and hold on to. So in terms of the mind, there wasn't too many stresses going on in the mind. Life was pretty simple. So that was definitely one good teaching. But I realized in this camp, we started with maybe 80 athletes, and then towards the end of the camp, at the second month, there was probably, I'd say, 30 guys still going. So it taught me how to recover well. I noticed that a lot of people were overtraining, and I guess the thing about living in Australia is, let's say 10% of our guys make it. 10% of, let's say, 100 runners isn't that much. You get 10 runners that are running at the top, but 10% of thousands that are going for it in Kenya, you get a few more crew up and about in world champs and so forth, or running and breaking records. So,
just every major marathon. You know what I mean? When you start thinking about it, where they all are, just usually won by a Kenyan or Ethiopian.
For sure, but you don't see the crew that break down, and I noticed that a lot of the crew would break because the training was just hard. You train 3 times a day. You'd wake up in the morning and it was 6 a.m. easy run, 7K tracksuit on, pretty easy pedestrian pace. But then you'd come back and the 10 a.m. run was either a threshold or track workout or hill workout. It was always hard except for Friday and Sunday. And then you'd have the rest of the day off, and then at 4 p.m. you'd go down and do strides and easy jog, leg drills and so forth. So just running mechanics. So no wonder they're so smooth as runners. They definitely work on that sort of side of their running. So it was 3 times a day except for Friday and Sunday. So I just noticed that a lot of crew were breaking down. So I sort of, as an athlete that was invited over into this sort of camp through Moses, I was able to sort of do my own thing a little bit and sort of skip out runs where I needed to, so not necessarily do 3 runs every day. And I noticed that was helpful. So whether or not I would have got injured, then I did get injured. I got a sacrum stress fracture. I went off Kenya and ran in Europe I did a road circuit in Europe for 6 months straight off Kenya, and I was fit, as fit as I've ever been in my life. I remember having this. I've got this newspaper article. I'm crossing the line and I've got my hands up in the air, and I just look like I've come out of a concentration camp. My arms are so skinny, and I was just so gaunt. I was running quick. I think I ran I had the record, and I had the record for a long time on that course. It was a really hilly 11K road course, and I ran 32 minutes, 32 high, so it just broke 33 minutes. So I was running quick, but as a result of being so fine and so light, I got a stressy, which forced me to come back to Australia.
Because was nutrition a thing? Were they thinking about, hey, we're doing triples, we've got to be getting in X amount of calories and stuff, or just we're doing triples?
Every day was the same. It was phenomenal. It was white bread and Kenyan chai every morning for brekkie. And white bread, I'm talking when you go to Baker's Life and they've got the Baker's Delight and they've got the whole white bread loaf. You get cut in half of a white bread loaf, and you just eat it with Kenyan chai, which is super sugary. And then that was brekkie, and you'd get a boiled egg every Saturday morning. This was in the camp, and then so you look forward to Saturdays. At lunchtime, you'd have rice, and the reason I can remember because it was the same meal for two months of my life. Rice, and then you'd have this what do they call it? It was beans and corn. It was a mix of beans and corn, which is really great. I mean, it was great the first week. I just sort of just chewing it. And like after like week 8, you're just trying to swallow it and get it down. And then at night they'd have ugali, which is like a polenta sort of corn hard mix with some greens. So there wasn't much meat in the diet, like it wasn't much protein. I mean, it was all sort of simple food, not processed. So the recovery from that was probably good, but I'd say I probably wasn't getting as much calories as I should have been in, and that might have been the result of the injury. But silver lining, I came back from the injury to Australia and started riding the bike. Loved the bike, took up duathlon, and the rest was history. I went on to represent Australia and go and race overseas, internationally, and so forth. And that was a real sort of, I loved that. I loved riding the bike. I felt like free. You go out and do a 6-hour ride. You couldn't do that as a runner. You'd go on the hills, and there was just a freedom in that. Like that's what I loved about that multi-sport. Like you could do so much more training. And I was a real sort of over-trainer back in the day. I just loved training all day. So it allowed me to overtrain, but not necessarily have all the injuries that I would as a runner.
The high impact smash in the body. I looked up some of your results today. And some other familiar names like Raf Bohr, he was in there. Matty Madonna, he's a Geelong boy, isn't he? Matty Madonna, doesn't he run the university down there now, Deacon?
Yeah, I think so. And Raf, he's such a good coach. I caught up with him, actually just bumped into him this year at the Sunshine or the Gold Coast Marathon, and he's doing great with some of his coaching. So yeah, I remember one nationals we raced. It was me, a guy called James Addard, who was always a good athlete getting around, and Raf, and we were going head to head over. They actually closed down Fed Square and St Kilda Road for an Australian duathlon championship there one year, and I was actually living just around the corner, so all training and racing on that course. So to be able to race through the city in a duathlon was pretty phenomenal. I picked up third, made the national team, so it was us three went over, and I think we did a race in that year was Hungary in Győr in Hungary, which was sort of great. And then a guy called Leon Griffin, who I'm sure you know.
Bendigo boy.
We went and trained in Boulder, Colorado together for a little while, and that was great. That was phenomenal going over to Boulder and seeing what it's all about up there with the altitude, and just the fitness vibe and the well-being culture up there was fantastic.
Yeah, he was living over there for a long time too, I reckon. Like he was making a job for it, doing it for a living. Yeah,
he was. I mean, he actually won the World Duathlon Championship one year, all the Belgians, and no one really knew Griffo. And then he was an animal on the bike, and the first run was really slow. And when I say slow, like maybe 30, 31 high for a 10K, which was like a lot of people were in the first pack. And then he sort of took off on the bike, and everyone let him go, thinking that he'd come back. And Griffo just rode away and never came back. And then the second run, they couldn't run him down because it was only 5K, and he had like 2 minutes up his sleeve.
How good, yeah. I remember because I was just a kid, or not a kid, like a teenager in Bendigo at the time, and he was on the back page of the papers, and huge news having a world champion coming out of Bendigo. Yeah,
pretty phenomenal. So I mean, duathlon was small over in Australia, but definitely overseas, I felt like it had some traction. You know, it was just such a good event, and they were all track runners. Like, let's face it, they were all track runners that didn't make it as track runners and took on the multi-sport and were absolutely killing it. Like runners that could run sort of 28 high for 10K. Can't make the national team, but you could definitely be a trailblazer in the form of duathletes or a duathlete.
Is it trial big now, or is it kind of like running and triathlon?
Yeah, it's still massive overseas. Okay. I think because, I mean, obviously Europe isn't like Australia and we're surrounded by beach, so the multi-sport, the duathlon, they have like a Grand Prix series, so you sort of travel around Spain, Italy, you do like the Grand Prix circuit, and it's massive. Yeah, it's really... And then they have the Powerman series, which is kind of like the Ironman triathlon series, but in terms of, I think it's like one of them, the World Championships is 21K first run, 160K bike, and then a 32K second run or something. So it's pretty big. Yeah. It's like a lot of running.
Did you ever try to make it professionally in duathlon?
Yeah, well, I mean, I was trying to do that. I did that for a long time, just sort of chasing. I mean, it's small money. You're picking up like 1,000 euros here, a bit of euro there. So you sort of, it was hard to make it professionally. You know, you had to be like winning some pretty big major races to make it enough income. But I love the simple living, you know, so I didn't mind sort of living out of the backpack and just sort of traveling around chasing races.
Yeah. So then the transition from that to who you are now, like in the yoga space, I don't know, like you just seem to be like this guru in understanding your mind and your thoughts and like breath work and like that world you just described is a lot of runners, a lot of people that listen to this show, but the world you're now an expert in is probably a long way from where a lot of us, I guess, like runner people see ourselves.
Yeah, but by default, like I noticed I was doing a lot of this stuff, and maybe some of the listeners might be able to relate to this sort of stuff as well as a runner. Like there are a lot of tools, these inner tools that you have as a runner to self-regulate, to slow down your breath, to notice where you're tight, to notice how the negative thought sort of pattern that you're on can sort of impact, once the elastic band breaks, and does it just break completely, or can you have some positive reinforcement and try and come back from something like that? So by default, there are a lot of sort of crossovers in terms of mindfulness and running, where runners might not even notice that they're practicing mindfulness. Even running up a hill, being able to relax your shoulders or slow down the breath. I think as a runner, you've got a lot of body awareness, and that was already sort of there for me. And when I stepped into the yoga world, I noticed that actually, wow, I'm already doing some of this stuff, like even visualization, closing your eyes and just visualizing yourself before a race, or trying to picture how the race might sort of unfold. That's sort of like meditation, actually. It's like just being able to sort of close your eyes and feel back into something that's not necessarily like objective, just always looking out, sort of bringing attention back in for a little moment. So by default, I sort of felt that the running and that all the years of working with my body and running and trying to progress as an athlete really did help me with the yoga. And I was, as I said, like I couldn't even touch my toes. Yoga was definitely not something that I wanted to do, nor was it something that I was looking at or even considering. I broke my hip. I got hit by a motorbike and when I was on my push bike, and broke my hip. So I ended up
by a motorbike.
Yeah. Jeez. So it smashed the head of my femur, cracked into my hip socket, so the acetabulum, and I just shattered my acetabulum, broke my femur in a few places, and so I ended up in and out of hospital for a good part of, I'd say, 3 months. I had deep vein thrombosis. There was lots of complications, so had hip surgery and so forth, and fixed my hip up. And the goal was to come back to running. I mean, I remember laying on the hospital bed. I was a couple of weeks out from a world champs in Italy, and the doctor came in. My first question wasn't, when's the surgery? It was just like, when can I start training and running? Yeah. And he said, no, you won't be running again. Like, your hip's in a bad way. You probably won't be able to run again. And that kind of, for me, I've never really suffered depression or anything like that, thankfully. But that was probably the darkest time when so much of my identity was around running and athletics and being this person who, was in that sort of realm for so long. That was my whole identity. So when that got pulled away from me, it was like a dark moment where I was like, wow. So I sort of isolated myself a little bit. I didn't want to hang around with people. I just wanted to get it done. And, and then I remember one of my mates reached out. She opened a yoga studio, and she was a physiotherapist, Rosie, her name was, and she was just a master at the body. She knew the body really well, and she was treating me as a physio, but said, hey, why don't you come and try yoga? And I said, I mean, I don't know what that is, but sure, I'll give it a go. And then this was probably 12, 13 years ago, and I went and practiced, and there was something about it that I walked out and I felt like I'd had a workout. I felt like my body had been put through its paces, but I was really grounded and present. When you do a workout, let's say you do a Sunday run. Well, these days I do a Sunday run, and I feel like I have to lay on the couch for a bit. I feel a bit exhausted, I feel pretty wiped out. But the yoga wasn't like that. I walked out and I felt really grounded and steady and calm and at ease, and I felt, wow, this is really good. So I just kept going, and even though I couldn't touch my toes and I was looking around, I was still competitive because, I mean, back in the day there wasn't many men doing yoga. I'd look around and there was all these bendy women in leggings and so forth, and I was, how the hell can they be doing that and I can't do this? So I got really competitive with it, and then the competition sort of faded out, and I just enjoyed going in and settling my mind and down-regulating my nervous system and getting a bit more stretch in my body. It felt really good, and I noticed that was sort of progressing me towards rehab, but at the same time it was rehab towards what? I wasn't really that interested in competing anymore. I was like, not that I wasn't interested in competing, I shouldn't say that. I still love competing even now. As you said, I went and rolled the dice in parkrun for the first time on the weekend, and I love that. You go to the front and you just sort of test yourself against other people, but it was just a lovely sort of entry point for me to sort of step away from that chasing times, pressure on myself, and just something in the movement in a way that wasn't competitive, and I just felt really grounded at the same time, so it was lovely.
The entry point, though, like you're a guy who gets on a plane and goes to Kenya by himself. A lot of men, I think in particular, would have potentially had an invitation to go try yoga and stuff and knocked it back. Like, you're very like open and, yep, I want to give it a go and look how it's worked for you. But I don't think everyone would be as accepting of the invitation. Maybe out of like intimidation or like, I don't know, just feeling a bit uncomfortable. And like, I've tried it, done it. Always just make excuses that I don't have that amount of time to be doing yoga, but I know it's good for me. But like, yeah, what's your message for like why should runners? And you've asked me before, like, why don't more runners do yoga? Like, how do I get them to do yoga? Like, how do you feel about all that?
Yeah, I think, you know, with anything, it's something that you got to give a go. That you got to give it a go for a couple of months. Like, for me, running is definitely something that's more uppity. Like, it ups my nervous system. It's a bit more catabolic. Like, I run and I feel it feels great. Like, I love pushing my body still and doing workouts. I've got my next door neighbor actually, Cameron Smith. He's a bit of a weapon. He's on the up with his running. So he ran, I think, 2:34 for a marathon, which is PB, and he's only done like 3 or 4 marathons. So he's definitely, and he's ran maybe like low 31s or maybe even high 30s for a 10K. So I just run around on a Thursday night chasing him. So I still love that aspect of running, but I noticed that it's still kind of uppity, and it still sort of upregulates my nervous system. So when I step into yoga, I notice that it's great for my running. So if I was a runner thinking, well, what can I add? Because as you said, like, and I remember your answer, it was like, when I did ask you that in Japan, your answer was, well, I think runners just want to do more Ks. Like, if we have more time, we'll choose to do more Ks. Like, there's so many other things we can do, right? Like, we can do strength and conditioning work. We can do hot, cold, you know, therapy. We can go to saunas. We can do Pilates. We can do yoga. Like, what's the stopping point? But I noticed one thing that, above all things, that has been really beneficial with the yoga is that it's the opposite end of the spectrum than for running. Like, running is great. It gives me this, but yoga can give me the opposite. It gives me, like, helps me soothe my nervous system. It helps me self-regulate my breath. It helps me also find stretch and length in my body. And then when I bring that into running, I find that it really helps my running more so than anything that has helped my running before. Like, I've definitely done strength conditioning, and I'm a big advocate for that, like for well-being and so forth. And I love Pilates and so forth. But I noticed the breath work and the mindfulness stuff that yoga sort of brings can really help my running. So if you're a runner out there, I'd say, like, if you did have some time to try yoga, I know it's a tricky one, you know, to go into a space that's foreign. But when you're in that space, you'll notice that actually no one's looking at you, and it's not competitive, and people are just on their own mat, and it's not looking around who's doing what. It's like such a self practice. It's a practice where you sort of just work with your own energy, and I think that's a really good thing, you know. And there's so many different styles of yoga as well, like the more dynamic style or the more mellow style, or even the yin, where you just lay down and stretch for an hour, which is it's hard to take an hour out in the day, but I always say sort of, you know, it's good for the team. Like, if I can soothe my nervous system and relax my body, then it's definitely good for my friends and my family. It's going to be good for, you know, you're a school teacher. It's going to be good for the kids that I teach. So it's like, it's not a self-help project, yoga. It's good for the team, which is kind of cool. The world needs a bit of yoga right now, you know? Oh,
well, I was about to say that. Like, every other aspect of life is up. Like, you put in their run and you put in your work. I'm guessing most people's work's like mine, and you're up and about when you're doing it, your family stuff, picking up the kids from daycare and looking after them, like, you know, doing a podcast. Like, everything's like high energy. So, like, to have something that's low energy and just, the whole, like, being on the mat thing, I think everyone appreciates they've got that opportunity to be on the mat in their time, that they're not going to waste that half an hour or an hour, whatever it is, worrying about the guy over in the corner who might be there for the first time. It's like, once you're through the door, that's good. But I think just getting people through the door is probably the key thing.
Yeah.
Slowing down.
You know, I like a lot of the words these days that are used aren't sort of yogi words, which is kind of nice, because like for instance, breath work, which has become very prevalent in Melbourne. I'm not too sure up there, but in Melbourne, breath work has become like there's studios that are opening just purely for breath work. And breath work is another way to describe yoga breathing, which is like, so it's packaged up in a way that's a little bit more digestible. And breath work can be a great way to soothe the nervous system or work with your energy. And also like mobility. Yoga is mobility. So some of the stuff that, you know, like let's say when we teach some sessions, we ran a session with Lululemon for Melbourne Marathon like a couple of weeks ago, and we had a mobility and mindfulness session. So basically the mobility was just sort of yoga postures strung together, but yoga and the postures that we do in yoga can add a lot of mobility and range in the body, which is helpful not only for running but also for longevity. Like I want to live well when I'm 60, 70, 80, 90, you know, I want to live well. I want to be able to move around well, and I don't want to feel stuck in my body. But I've noticed as a runner, some of the high impact and just that linear style of movement, the older I get, the more stiff sort of I get. So the yoga has helped me keep that mobility in my body just to live well, not for performance, just to sort of move around and get around well. I think there's real merit in that as well.
Yeah, and with the like breath work and like even like the mental side of things, I'm sure there's things you know now that you wish you knew when you were 17 and on the start line of Bundoora, and maybe some like negative thoughts are coming in and like what you can actually do to work with that. Like what's your kind of toolbox entail now?
Yeah, mate, absolutely. Like I think, and it's been nice to see some of this stuff come in. Like even in COVID, like I was teaching yoga to some of the crew, like Joel, Tobin Y, and like Brett Robinson, and, you know, I saw Jack Rayner in the studio last week. So it's fun to see these crew coming in, and they've sort of been gently sort of nudged in the direction of yoga and breath work as a means to sort of to self-regulate. I know when I'm relaxed, I run my best. Like when I'm nervous, nerves are good because I want to do well, but too much nervousness, from my experience at least, I run stiff, I feel clunky, I'm not in my body, I'm up in my mind. So when I'm relaxed and when I feel easy, I tend to bring that into my rhythm and my running. So just to be able to self-regulate on the start line, or just in a warm-up, go for a warm-up and then just take 30 seconds to slow my breath down, to relax my shoulders, to get a little bit more tension-free than I am right now. And then when the gun goes, I feel like that's a really nice sort of stepping stone into the race, rather than sort of start with that sort of uppity, nervous energy. So stuff like that. But also, I mean, yoga is definitely working with the mind. Like, I feel like yoga definitely points us in the direction of how we can work with our mind. For example, like the mind could be your worst enemy, like negative self-talk. It could be, it's worse than any of your other enemies out there. It's like your own mind could be your worst enemy, but it can also be your best friend. Like your mind can be your best friend. So irrespective of what's happening around you, if we learn how to work with our own mind and notice when we have, you know, these patterns that we're creating, notice when we have this negative self-talk, or when we criticize, or when we judge, and then to be able to sort of give that some ventilation, just to notice, just to be aware of that, ventilates the mind. And then maybe there's something different. You know, I can practice relaxing a little bit more. I can practice focusing on the positive things that are happening in the moment, or I can look at how I can work to create more positive in the moment. So I think yoga can help us really sharpen the muscle of awareness and start to become more aware of, you know, how am I in relationship with this moment, and how's that stepping me into the next moment. And for me as a runner, that's really helpful, especially when it's mid-race. I mean, even in parkrun on Saturday, we turned at the 2.5K mark, had this beautiful tailwind. I was like, oh man, this is crazy. I'm in form right now. And then I turned at 2.5K and I was like, well, that was why I've just turned into a block headwind. It was just raging into, and then I was like, wow, how can I've got to become aware of my body right now. Relax your shoulders, slow breathing down, stay with it. Like there was moments where I wanted to sort of pull back and stop the pace. But at the same time, I was like, no, okay, just stay with it. Just look after this moment, and then just look after this moment. So I think sharpening awareness, which yoga sort of points towards, has been really helpful for me as an athlete now. And I definitely, like you said, I wish I had sort of known this stuff when I was a little younger.
Yeah, I love that the cars on the road analogy, like when things are going bad in a race, and like thinking of your thoughts as like cars going past on the road, and you get to choose which car you jump into and like go in that direction. And it's just like, just acknowledge the cars are there, but you don't need to be thinking about that one and like actually go on the road down that rabbit hole into that thought. because you and you'd probably know more about this with how you studied it and stuff as well, but the roads, the cars that are bipping their horn on the road and stuff are usually the negative ones. They're the ones trying to get your attention straight away, and you just stay away from those thoughts, Brady, and just keep focused. I often just count to 10 just so I can just clear the road of all the cars.
Yeah. That's a good sort of thing to say. If I notice that I'm off on a negative thought pattern, I can just interrupt that momentum and come back to something. Like the present moment doesn't know negative, doesn't know dissatisfaction. The present moment is just happening. So if I can come back to something that's happening now, it could be relax my shoulders or notice my breath for a moment. It just for a little moment, it interrupts the momentum of that thought pattern, and then maybe there's something fresh and different, when I start thinking again. Because let's face it, the waves are going to always come back. The thinking will always return. That's the nature of the mind. But every now and again, it's nice to sort of be able to relate to this calm water, this still water. Even though the waves are going to come back, it's every now and again, just what's it like to experience calm water, just to relax more, open,
Yeah, spot on. Tell me about, obviously, Lululemon sponsoring this episode. You're one of the ambassadors. How'd that relationship come about to start off with?
Well, it's been a really lovely relationship. It's probably 8 years now. I was just, funnily enough, teaching yoga, and some of the girls from the Campbell store I was teaching in Richmond would come in and do class. And, for me, yoga was never exercise. Even though yoga can be a form of exercise, there was always something else. I was always, the study I did or the courses I did or the trainings I did were always referencing the philosophy around yoga or the nervous system. So I felt like some of the crew really enjoyed that from the Lululemon stores, and then we just struck up a little relationship, and I'd go in on a Sunday morning and teach. They used to have community yoga, so free yoga on a Sunday morning in the Lululemon stores around Melbourne. So I'd go in and teach at Camberwell and Collingwood and Chapel Street. And then from there I became an ambassador. And I don't really love the limelight. I don't mind talking in front of a lot of people, but I don't love when the talk is about me. I love talking about something that I'm passionate about. But so I remember when I was teaching one morning, and they used to surprise you with their ambassadorship, and they came in and they were like, "Surprise, will you be our ambassador?" And everyone was standing up, and I was like, I've got this photo of me as an ambassador, and I'm as bright as a tomato, as embarrassed as I've ever been in my life. And I'm like, yes, I'll be your ambassador. It was like this sort of proposal, but it was just fantastic. I definitely said yes to a lot of things and had some great opportunities. We went over to do a fun run in Vancouver, Seawees with Lululemon. I've been able to teach in beautiful spaces I've never would have imagined, the art centre. I've taught, up in, where we just hung out recently up at the Sunshine Coast, and I'm just being able to meet some amazing people and run into some fantastic crew, generally doing some great things. I love being in sort of pockets where people are just doing their thing and you can get inspired from their stories and just hanging out with them. So that's been really lovely. And then I was fortunate enough to become the city ambassador, which is the program that you're on. So being able to travel around Asia and Pacific and being able to teach yoga in other countries has been fantastic as well. So yeah, I've really loved it. And funnily enough, I was running I was moving in a lot in the Lululemon stuff before I even became an ambassador. So it was sort of just like an easy entry point. And the running back from when I started in 2017 as an ambassador, the apparel that we had back then, even though I do still run.
You would have seen it evolve a bit in 8 years, wouldn't you?
Because it wasn't really about running. It was definitely more of a yoga brand. It was. So we did have some running sort of capsules that came through, and I do have these 3-inch. I always like the short shorts. I'm like you. I either run in splitties or a half tight, and the splitties aren't so popular. So if you go they haven't been the most popular shorts. It's probably you and me the only ones that are buying them, but they're definitely.
There's a whole lot of listeners always in my DMs when are they going to be restocked? I'm like, I'm not sure why or when. Also, I don't have a discount code. Everyone always hits me with those two questions. When do the half tights and splitties get restocked? Do you have a discount code? No, I'm not sure, and no.
Yes, 100%. Those half tights are all the rage at the moment.
Try Ryan 10. That could work on the discount code, though.
There's no Ryan 10 code. But, yeah, I definitely have seen the evolution of the kit. It was definitely something that's been very refreshing to be able to run in stuff that is more run specific. So, and you're the same. You're a pure runner, so I love seeing you get around in some of the new stuff that comes out, and it's been great.
Yeah, well, this
I
time...
mean, you get singlets shipped over from Vancouver, specific special singlets for, mate, you're one of the
I was
elite.
stoked with that. We had to run a marathon in pretty hot weather, so we wanted
Yeah,
we wanted a good singlet out of it. It wasn't just for me to jog around a Chukomo Amarin. No, you're right. Like, the kid's come a long way, and you would have like been a fan of the sport and a fan of like someone like Jess as well. When like you've obviously been in the brand for that long, and then seeing that move come over. She's coming up on the show in a couple of weeks for a bit of a check-in, but that news would have been huge when you read about that.
Yeah, and just also, we went over to Seoul or Korea early in the year to do a running campaign shoot, and just to meet her. And she was pregnant at the time, but she was still running, so we'd go out and do our long run on the off days and so forth together, and just to sort of get around and meet Jess. I'd heard a lot about Jess, but I hadn't met her. I'd met her briefly at like a track race down in Geelong. So she's friends with some of the Surf Coast crew and the track club crew, so she came down. I met her briefly, but obviously everyone was wanting to meet her and so forth at that point. So to have some time with her, she's just such a fantastic ambassador for the brand, but just a fantastic ambassador for running. I love hanging out with those crew. I mean, never something negative to say about anyone. It's just so cool to be around people like that. Just wants to, and I think that's the good thing about what I've noticed about what's happening at the moment in the running scene. Like, there's so many run crews that are getting up and about, and there's so many more community-orientated running that's happening. And from my experience in those crews, and even in like Melbourne Marathon a couple of weeks ago, everyone's getting around each other and what's best for each other. Like, you're cheering people that you don't even know, and someone goes past you, give them a tap on the bum and say, keep going. It's like, I feel like there's a real camaraderie with running, and I think that's really taking off at the moment, which is great to see. And that's the yoga right there. Like, as I said at the start, like, just that support and rejoicing in other people's joys is one of the things that we're pointing towards in yoga. That's one of the things that we're trying to get towards in yoga, to be more of that energy and bring that energy into the world, rather than sort of this strong sense of me or individualism that we can get caught up in, just to be more a part of the community. So the community running groups, I don't know what's happening up in Echuca, but down in Melbourne and on the Surf Coast, it's phenomenal. You can do a running group every morning of the week if you'd like, and it's a running group where you probably get 100 people out in the morning. It's just phenomenal. Mate,
nothing's happening at Chukomo. I think I've ran by myself every day for the last 6 months. But yes, I do see it everywhere else, and I do feel a bit of envy. But I think you're right about, like, so I interviewed Dave McNeil a couple of days ago with we're talking about like mindset and like your mental health and things like that, and his big thing was like, surround yourself with people who give you good energy. And I think we're seeing it in global sport as well at the moment. Like, gone are the days where it was that tough as nails, like macho man, like scared school principal kind of vibes, and it's almost about like caring for each other when we want the best for each other, and when we don't. Like, I follow Collingwood, and Craig McRae is like a perfect example of that. Like, we don't dwell on moments that go wrong, and we just like appreciate each other. And our captain at the Bendigo Bats is all about that as well. Like, we've got that similar culture where we just want the best for each other. Whereas that kind of like, punching down and bagging people out kind of mentality's just gone now. It's great to be in so many and watching so many sports.
Isn't it great? And I mean, some of the more woohoo sort of style of yoga, and this is where I was intimidated. Like, I'd go in and people would be talking about all this philosophical sort of stuff, and I'd be like, just out of my depth. But one of the biggest things in yoga is to dissolve ego, or dissolve this sense of self. And it's not like get rid of who you are, but it's like this strong sense of like competition or comparison, or like, it's like, what's in it for me? Or again, this strong sense of me that we can carry around on our shoulders. As soon as you step into a community, like, that just dissolves and you become the community. And as you said, like, I think that's such a, the world needs that sort of stuff right now to get in the community. And this is a month for Movember. So, I think it's really important to sort of get around your mates and get around people and be able to be a part of something bigger than just you. And that's all the yoga philosophy points to. Like, that's the number one teaching, just to free yourself with yourself. And when you do that, and when you're a supporter for someone else, by default, that lifts you up as well. So, if you're a listener out there, I think it's really important to sort of get into something, even if it's like your local team or something, just to be a part of something that's bigger than you. Because let's face it, life can be isolated and life can be really insular if you let it be that way. Otherwise, And the opposite is true. You know, there's so many people out there that want to get around you and want to help. So, and the running community is great like that, especially like the all these running events and running sort of clubs around Melbourne. You know, people go in for the first time they've ever been there, and then chatting to crew that they don't know, and people are sort of cheering them on, and I think that's great. I think that's, hopefully it stays that way. I feel like that's the way it's going, and I know we have like cycles in running and it sort of gets popular and then dives again, but I'm loving seeing this popularity sort of.
Sky's the limit now, mate. It's just going to keep going up, I reckon.
Yeah, mate, with podcasts like this. And
podcasts like this. Now look at the event. All the events are selling out.
I know. How was Melbourne Marathon? A lot of my mates actually talking about my mate Cam next door. He had to run Sydney Marathon because he couldn't get a ticket for Melbourne. It sold out like 3 months in advance. Yeah,
bit different course too. How'd he go? Was he good on the hills?
I think it was hot up there, and it was a bit of a struggle. Like he went to break 2:30, and I think the heat got the better of him. I think Moose had a good one though, didn't he? Seemed like I chatted to him at Melbourne. He said
Moose
came
had a
home
great one. Fourth in the Australian champs. Big
That's
money for
good.
Moose. Got his medal the other day too, I think. Might talk about that in the weekly show. He's up and about, mate.
And you were pacing the women, I heard, and it was hard to pace because they were up and down and up and down.
Yeah, whole lot of 2:17, 2:18, 2:19 girls that didn't want to run quicker than 2:28 pace. So, it was an odd day, but it was good to be involved. I was wearing that singlet I was telling you about.
I did. I loved seeing you in the kit. I was watching you live with your half tights and your black half tights and your white. It's like
the Gold Coast uniform.
Your iconic. It's your kit. It's your iconic kit. Like you couldn't.
I got some new stuff last week. I got a new look coming. Got this like nice purple singlet. Keep a look out for that. Next race, I might be wearing that one, I think.
Bit of colour.
Bit of colour in there. Yeah, I like purple. Favourite colour. All right, mate, that's a good spot to leave it on. Thank you so much for your time. We're nearly gone for an hour. I could listen to you all day. Where can listeners, if they're interested, follow you along? You're on Strava?
Yeah.
Do you put stuff on Strava?
Only my fast stuff, mate.
Nah, you're one of those people. You know who does that? Sinead Diver. She'll run New York Marathon, just uploads just New York Marathon, but not any of her training leading up kind of thing. So
yeah, you got to keep them guessing. But no, if you do want to, like, if you're someone at home and you sort of want to touch into yoga and give it a go, like I've got an online program that I run. It's called It's All Yoga. So if you just type in It's All Yoga, you can find me there, and it's $30 a month. It's really easy access. You can do classes that suit your mood. Also on social media and some of the Lululemon events around town, like we'll be around next year at most of the running events and so forth. So come and say g'day if you listen to this podcast. It's always nice to say g'day to strangers and have a connection. So don't be a stranger.
Listeners, Gold Coast next year, we're getting in early. Book a spot for the yoga session with Ryan Mannix at the QT.
Yep. There you go.
All right, mate. Thanks for your time.
Thanks for having me.
This episode of the Inside Running Podcast is powered by Lululemon. With 44 stores across Australia and New Zealand, you can shop the latest range either in-store or online at lululemon.com.au to find your well-being.